All right, here we go. Today we have Derrick Grace II. Welcome to Vlad TV.
I appreciate you big time for having me. I've been wanting to be on this platform and have this experience for nearly a decade at this point, so I appreciate it big time.
Wow, thank you, man. Well, you've earned this.
Thank you.
You put in the work, and you've moved units, and you built a strong following and built wealth. And really, when I reached out to you, I'm like, I like what you're doing in terms of financial literacy, because that's something I've always pushed. Like the Vlad stocks and everything else like that. So I definitely had to have you on.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you, man. Well, first time here. I want to start in the beginning. Grew up in Tampa, Florida.
Yes, sir.
Now, your mom is a teacher, but your dad is the feds.
Yeah. Bro, they tease me for that all my childhood, every year grade school. They was like, don't do nothing around Derrick and Eric. You know they dad the police. You're going to get caught, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
No, your dad's actually Secret Service, right?
Yeah, retired Secret Service now, yep.
Okay, and he actually served and protected presidents?
Yeah. He has a game room, so when you walk in there, I know for sure Obama, Bush, Michelle Obama. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not big on politics. I don't get into it. So a lot of those guys, I see their faces, but I don't know their names. But yeah, he's protected a number of presidents over the years.
Well, your parents got divorced when you were 1.
Yeah, I was 1 year old when they got divorced, yep.
Okay, when did your dad actually retire from Secret Service?
My dad retired 2017. But he's actually back now. But he doesn't do the Secret Service aspect currently. He does he oversees the artificial intelligence aspect of it. So a lot of times in my teachings, I warn guys to be extremely careful over those jail calls, because now they have AI intact that actually picks up on keywords and then it like pings it immediately to the person that oversees the call, and the next thing you know, you got a whole new case, whole new evidence because you said something over a jail call.
Yeah, I've always felt, and I don't know whether this is a conspiracy theory or not, but I've always felt that every single phone call is recorded.
Absolutely.
And stored somewhere. Now, they can't legally use it.
Right.
But with that information, they can then connect the dots and then actually follow you and get you on something. Now, they can't use that as evidence, but they have it in the stash.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, so when you were young, you actually remember your dad being active Secret Service.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I mean, look, I was just in Houston the other day, and I remember seeing like 10 Secret Service guys come in this restaurant, and it was the governor of Georgia.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. So Secret Service is like, they surrounded the whole area, and they're in the front. And like,
he would tell me stories like he would have to go out days ahead of time to comb the area. Exactly. They got to get up on buildings, make sure they got certain vantage points, check this and check that, like 3 to 7 days ahead of time.
Did you ever talk to your dad about like when Trump got shot? Because that was like a big failure, I felt, with the Secret Service.
Yeah, I did. We had a brief conversation about it. He felt the same way. He felt, even though he's not a fan of Trump, me and him have totally different views when it comes to Trump, because I'm a huge fan of Trump. He isn't. But he did say, he did resonate with that. That was a complete failure. And he also felt like it was almost intentional that somebody was even able to get that close and get a shot off at Trump. That somewhere on the inside, there had to be an intentional breakdown.
Oh, like they let the guy climb up there and be like, well.
Right. Oh, well.
If it happens, it happens.
Right.
Okay, so your parents divorced and you went to go live with your mom?
Yeah, I lived with my mom all the way up until 13, and then me and her were bumping heads continuously, and I went and lived with my dad after that.
Okay, and your mom is a teacher, your dad, is a Secret Service, Secret Service guy, so they both have, money. It's a middle class kind of upbringing, but you were getting into a whole bunch of trouble.
Yeah, man, I was an inquisitive child, but sometimes I will admit I was a terrible child. And like in retrospect, as I evolved into a man, and I have my own 10 children now, I can see how like we might have stressed my mom the hell out and just raising boys, because she got nothing but 3 sons. So you got this woman, you got the femininity, and then you got 3 boys who are headstrong and doing their own thing. But yeah, I was with my mom up until 13, went with my dad. And as far as the lifestyle, dad exposed me to a great deal of things, going out of the country. He taught me delayed gratification. He taught me business and things of that nature. But my mom was just really big on the way we articulated ourselves, we carried ourselves as men, and having survival skills. So her tax bracket per se didn't allow her to put me in the places that my dad could. So we would basically, like with mom, it wasn't like the projects, it wasn't bodies outside, but it wasn't where dad lived either. So dad had a more clean, distinguished place. And mom's was a little less because just she didn't have the means that he did to put us up in nice houses and nice neighborhoods.
Well, you started doing a lot of crimes as a kid.
Yeah.
You say you broke into at least 20 cars.
Man, where you get that information from?
I'm the feds, man. I know everything.
That's crazy. Yeah. Man, I was like I said, I was inquisitive. So I was big on, I didn't even know the word entrepreneurship back then, but I was just big on doing things on my own. And my dad just stressed manhood, men do this, men do that. So early on, I didn't like asking people for things. So yeah, I would typically go steal certain things and then resell them other places. So me and my older brother, that's how we made money. Early on, I know I was 8 years old when I broke in my first house and my first car.
How many houses do you think you broke into?
I only broke into 2 houses. I was terrified of going to people's houses.
Well, yeah, I mean, breaking into a car is one thing. You go into someone's house, and that might be the last thing you do.
No, absolutely. And we were just wild kids. The house that we broke into, it was our neighbors at that point. Literally, this guy lived 2 doors away. But during the summers, he would travel to wherever he did. And we paid attention to that over the years. So I remember this one summer, we broke in and we literally lived in this guy's house for almost 60 days, like on and off.
Wait. You broke into a guy's house and you lived there for 2 months.
Yeah, man.
Where was he? Like on vacation or something?
Yeah, so like during the summer, I don't know where the guy went. He was just a real quiet guy, real grumpy guy. He never wanted us in his yard, one of those type. But when he left, I know on and off for 60 days, we was damn near living there like it was our house. We in the bed, we eating, drinking, having a ball in this guy's house for 60 days.
Okay. Any arrests happened during this time?
No. So one of the oldest gentlemen that did it with us, he did end up getting investigated for it, but no arrests were made. And I was literally in 3rd grade, so nobody suspected that I would do anything like that.
You were 9 years old, breaking into houses.
Yeah, man. I smoked for the first time, broke in my first car, my first house in 3rd grade. And that's just I just wanted to be like my big brother so bad. I wanted to run with my big brother so bad.
Okay, so you graduate high school.
Yep.
And did you think about college during this time?
I did briefly because I didn't necessarily want to, but I did like the benefits and the money that came with what I saw from my dad. So like back then, you had to have some form of a degree to get into the sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. My biggest struggle was the PT test. I just couldn't pass that running challenge for anything, right? I took that PT test twice. And they had us run I'm from Tampa, Florida. It's called the Falkenberg Jail. So you got to run around like a mile and a half within like 11 minutes or something. I quit both times. So that's how I ended up becoming a dispatcher, because physically I just didn't have what it took to become an actual deputy. I just couldn't push myself to go that hard.
Right. So you became a 911 dispatcher.
Yep, at 18.
So you're working as a 911 dispatcher,
mm-hmm.
but a situation happened at a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that.
So, well, the party hadn't even got started yet. I was going to, all right, let me start from the beginning. So at this time, me and this mom don't have any children. We went on to have 5 children after that. But I go to pick her up, right? And as I'm walking out my door, like I believe in never going anywhere without carrying. Of course, if I'm in Cali or New York, that's a different case. But if I'm home, absolutely carrying. So I remember I leave out the door, and I would keep guns around the house in certain places. As I'm walking out the door, it's a Glock 27 and a judge at the door. And I'm like, I'll just grab the Glock. So I grab the Glock 27. And I hate driving. So when I pull up to her mom's house, I automatically get in the passenger seat because she would drive me every time we went anywhere. And I also had my daughter in the back at this time. She's 3, almost 4 years old. So when I pull up, I got one phone that I'm talking on and another one that I'm about to text her on and say, hey, I'm outside, let's go. Before I could even text, her mom storms down the driveway. And she's in the midst of having an argument with their oldest sibling, her son. So I basically just came in on a rough disagreement that had nothing to do with me, but you know, sometimes moms get pissed and they're gonna give everybody smoke that day. So when I pull up, I can't remember the statements exactly, but she basically telling me like, I'm sick of her shit, I'm sick of his shit. She referring to her children and she pointed at me, she's like, I'm sick of your shit, everybody need to go. And I'm just like, man, it's my birthday. I'm just here to pick your daughter up. We're gonna have a good time. I ain't got nothing to do with your family issues. The son now hears us engaging and he's drunk. That's why they were arguing in the first place. So now he run down the driveway and he wanted to defend mom, but he has no idea what's going on at this point. So now they like, and I get it, they're family. So this is their tag team moment. Now they team up and it's just them against me. So Mom opens the driver door, and the son comes to the passenger door, but he doesn't open it yet. And I just, cause I've known Mom since I was 10 years old. Like, we go way back. Like, this is like my family. So I tell her, I'm like, look, Derrick in the back seat. Like, y'all better chill. And I vividly remember her looking at me and snickering, like she shrugged her shoulders, like, I don't give a damn. And when she did that, like, I'm not gonna lie, my mind just went to another place. Like, well, fuck it. If none of us care, then, none of us care. So when the son comes to the pasture, I'm like, bro, if you open the door, I'm gonna kill you. And I just remember he said some bravado movie line, like he done seen everything but death anyway, or something along them lines, and he opened the door anyway. And man, he got the first swing off. I leaned to the left towards the driver's seat, and I remember I had the Glock facing down in the holster. I gave it a little pressure, it popped out. I leaned to the left with my left, I leaned to the left with my left arm. I started shooting out the passenger door. Mom attempts to run over simultaneously and puts her hand up. And that's how she ended up losing her finger. Her ring finger got shot off, and then he got shot somewhere, shoulder, chest area. He got hit somewhere up there, but yeah, it was a hell of a birthday for all the wrong reasons.
Well, your 3-year-old daughter, Derrick, was in the back seat.
Yeah, she's in the back seat at the time.
While all this shooting was occurring.
Right.
I'm all into self-defense. I'm a gun owner. Right. I get it. But that was crazy.
Right, it was. And I'm not gonna lie, I can admit later on in life that there was some ego in there, and I'm very sensitive when my children are with me. So I feel like if you attempt to violate a man or a woman, especially while they have their children present, then that calls for, what could be lethal action. So yeah, I was highly pissed that I made it clear my daughter's right here and y'all still gonna go with y'all moves. So I felt like in that moment I had to demonstrate the worst way I could.
Okay, so you shot your daughter's grandmother her finger off?
Yeah, so...
And then you shot your daughter's uncle in the shoulder.
Yeah, my 5 daughters, I shot their grandmother and their uncle, yeah.
Yeah.
5 of my daughters. I have 8 total, but 5 of my daughters, yeah.
Right. Your daughter's 3. Now, does she remember that at all?
Yeah, she remembers it, yeah. Okay. Vividly, man, one of the big... I remember turning back to her and I'm like, babe, you all right? And she was like, I'm okay, Daddy, are you okay? And I just was like relieved in that moment, like, all right, well, at least she's not crying and screaming and losing it right now.
Okay. I assume someone calls the police at some point?
I did. I actually called them. So at this time, I'm done being a dispatcher, but I know the law. Like I've been a dispatcher. My dad raised me on law, so I know like, hey, get out of here, retreat, make the 911 call, because I do understand the laws in Florida in self-defense. And I'm not gonna lie, like it took me a second to even get to that moment because when the adrenaline started pumping, like I remember when I first shot them, it was scary. I'm not gonna lie, even for me, because they didn't budge. Like when I jump out the car and I draw down fully, Mom is still walking towards me. Like it's literally like the fingers hanging on by a strand. But I'm assuming her adrenaline pump because she don't look like she's scared of this gun no more at all.
Wow.
And I remember, man, she got like within a foot of me and I fully extended like they taught us. And I was just like, if you take another step, I'm gonna blow your fucking head off. And she just stopped. And her brother's name is Red. She was like, Red, get in the house. And in that moment, they just like turned and ran up the driveway. And he was like, I'm going to get my gun. And still, I'm in egotistical mode. So I'm like, go get it. And then that's when the light bulb came on. Like, you're 3-year-old in the back, bro. You cannot have a shootout. Be smart and get your ass out of here, because now it's gonna escalate to something totally different. And that's when I drove like 5 blocks over, hyperventilating, like literally 911 thought I got shot. The lady kept asking, "Are you hit? Are you hit?" I'm like, "No, I shot them, but y'all come on." And then, I drove 5 blocks over, and that's when the police made it. And then it was a whole nother chapter after that.
Okay. Have you ever shot anyone up to that point?
No, I shot at somebody and I've been shot at, but I've never experienced like seeing a bullet touch flesh from my gun. No.
Okay. So now you got 2 people shot.
Mm-hmm.
Did either one of them have weapons?
No.
Okay. Because ultimately you got off by stand your ground.
Right.
How did you prove the stand your ground part?
Well, one, the fact that they both opened the driver and the passenger door, that was equated to vehicular burglary. Because you can't forcefully open doors and try to accost people who are in their dwelling/vehicle. So they were wrong in that regard.
Got it.
And then because he swung and I was able to, verbally prove like, hey, I was in danger and I got a 3-year-old with me. And I'm not gonna lie, nepotism, I feel absolutely played a role in that whole thing. That's why I say like that. Even when the police got there, that was a whole nother chapter. But that's how I was able to chalk it up to stand your ground.
Yeah, look, if this happened in Los Angeles or New York, you'd have a lot of problems on your hands.
Absolutely.
You know, like for example, my man Taxstone, who's doing like 45 years right now over the whole Troy Ave situation.
Yep.
He got punched in the face first.
Right.
He pulled out a gun and killed Banger.
Right.
And I think shot Troy Ave. And he was found guilty.
Right.
And now he's doing all this time. And I've always said if this happened in Florida, he would have walked free.
He would have been fine. Absolutely.
He actually got punched in the face first.
Right.
You know, like in Florida, you know, like for example, I interviewed Lil Tim, who killed King Von.
Great interview, by the way.
Oh, thank
Great
you.
Interview, man.
Thank you. But once again, he walked away from a dead body over Georgia's stand your ground law.
Absolutely.
And, you know, these laws work in favor of some people. Sometimes you have the Zimmerman situation, the Trayvon Martin situation, where it works, you know, against what people really want. But, you know, it's one of those things. It's a very controversial law.
Absolutely.
But in this case, it helped you.
Yeah, it did. It did for sure.
Well, you said you'd been shot at before?
Yeah.
What was that over?
Me and so Derrick, two of my daughters, Derrick and Melanin, they have their own mom, and their mom is very attractive per se. So I'm getting gas one day, and these guys see me with her, but they decide like to literally like try to holler at her like 5 feet away from me. Like I'm at one pump, they're at one pump. And I remember like back then I would carry 2 45s in my waistband. I had a Car 45 and a Glock 30. And I just knew I was desperado. Like, man, when I was younger, my mind was just terrible. But I remember they tried to holler at her right in front of me. And I remember just walking next to her, lifting my shirt up. And I was just on my big man shit, pounding my chest. And they stood down. And I just thought I thought I was the toughest motherfucker in the world. I had it all. And I remember jumping in the car. And before I could pull out the driveway at the gas station, this dude, one of the dudes hop out with what looked like a 38. And I knew then, that's when I really learned, like, it's people out here that's crazier than me. They tougher than me. They give a fuck less than I do. And the only reason he didn't pull it out right then is because it was in the car. And I would have had a shootout on my hands because he wasn't scared at all. But man, it's broad day. And it's Hillsborough Avenue. It's one of the main streets in Tampa, Florida. And I'm not gonna lie, I was terrified. He was lighting that motherfucker up in the middle of the day. And I'm telling my baby mom, like, drive this fucking car, go. And she like, I'm going as fast as I can. But yeah, that's the first time I got shot at. And that was a learning lesson for me to like, I might want to tone it down and find better ways to articulate when I'm disappointed or know when to just walk away. Cause it's people out here that's crazier than I am. Like I'm a strategic shooter / responder. Like I'm gonna do it for a reason. It's people out here that just like, they don't give a damn. They'll pull it out right now and get active.
Or just crash out.
Absolutely.
So if a shootout happened at a gas station, there's cameras everywhere.
Right.
So were the police called and did something happen?
No, Vlad, I don't know, man. Listen, I hauled ass out of there so long and stayed from that side of town for like 3 weeks. I don't know what happened there. Bro watching this, he remember that story vividly. And I appreciate him because he taught me a valuable lesson in walking away, de-escalation, and just toning my shit down as an emotional man.
Yeah, I've always felt as a gun owner, I'm not going to flash my gun.
Right.
If I have to pull it out, I feel like I have to kill the person.
Right.
So to me, it's like a last resort.
Absolutely.
You know, I remember, I interviewed Joe Tacopina, who was A$AP Rocky's lawyer, and we talked about the whole prop gun defense and how Rocky pulled out a fake gun and shot it, and he thought it was a good idea. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm really buying this because to me, a fake gun seems more dangerous than a real gun.
It does.
You know, because once you pull out the fake gun,
you're gonna get some
everyone
real
has a green light to pull out the real gun.
You're gonna get some real repercussions.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they kill you and they find out that it's a fake gun afterwards, they're not gonna get charged with anything.
Right, exactly.
How did I know it was a fake gun? Looked real to me.
Absolutely.
You know, you saw a situation, I think, in Houston, like a guy was robbing a restaurant, and one of the patrons pulled out a gun and killed him.
Yeah.
And then when he went over to the body, he was like, yo, the gun's fake.
Yeah, actually, it's crazy. I posted a video a couple of days ago. A guy, man, he had an extended mag and all and attempted to rob him. The guy whoop his ass and take the gun and realize it's fake. He still got locked up for that, and he's still going to get real charges for trying to commit a robbery with that fake gun. You
know, having a fake gun doesn't change your charges. Just like trying to sell someone fake cocaine, you'll still get charged for cocaine, even if it's flour.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
And if the police sell you fake cocaine, once again, you'll get charged for real cocaine trying to buy it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you said you got shot at. Was that the same situation? Or was there a different situation?
No, that's the same one. Yeah, I've only been shot at one time.
Okay. The situation where you actually shot, your daughter's uncle and grandmother, was that a turning moment? Because that was the first time you actually connected.
Right.
And I think you even said how you could smell the burning flesh and everything.
Man, it was very traumatic. It was almost like a slow motion moment. And man, the way I hyperventilated, I never felt that type of pain in my life. My whole like chest and stomach locked up. I couldn't breathe. Yeah, it was a crazy moment. But yeah, that was definitely a turning moment for me. And I vowed that I if I could help it, I would never hurt anybody that looked like me again. Because I'm not gonna lie, it bothered me for a long time. And I'm like, just still the narrative of like when people say grandmother, that shit just sound bad. Like,
it sounds crazy.
Grandma?
It sounds crazy.
I always tell people I was not aiming for her. Like, at that point, I had the utmost respect. Like, this lady helped raise me for certain years of my life. Like, I don't believe in God. She used to make me go to church and still read my Bible and all type of stuff. Like, she used to feed me. Like, this was really family. So that bothered me for a long time. Like, one, her age as an elder, and then two, we were supposed to be family.
So I guess they got the finger back on though afterwards?
Yeah, they did. They got it.
Did you guys maintain a relationship after this?
I tried, Vlad. I tried multiple times. She won't talk to me.
She's like, yeah, I'd call you back, but my finger's not working.
Yeah, no.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, she, from what I was told, she ended up having to go on disability. She couldn't work the same anymore. So I get it. I assume she took that very, very personal.
So did you see her again after that?
Oh yeah, no. We've had 5 children since then. I've seen her multiple times, and I've tried to speak, but she's not interested.
She doesn't want to hear it.
No.
Well, I mean,
And I respect it. I get it.
Yeah. Well, there was a situation, I guess, while you were a 911 dispatcher, where someone tried to rob you.
Not necessarily rob, but I'm not gonna say rob, but Glad to be real with you, man. It was multiple situations during the 911 thing because I kind of leveraged that position to do things that I didn't have any business doing. So me and my cousins and my brother, we were still heavy in the streets. And then I would go put on a 911 uniform at night and work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Like, I've even had times where I went and looked up service calls and I called my cousin like, man, do y'all know 10 police was looking for us last night? Like, we got to be cleaner about this, so we got to do this and that. But I will say I never look for trouble. I cannot tell one story where I went and looked for it. But I do have countless stories where it came my way and I did what I felt I had to do at that time as a man.
Well, I'm talking about a situation where someone allegedly tried to steal some jewelry and then you used your resources as a dispatcher to find out who they are and where they lived.
You guys.
I got everything, man. I got everything. You can't. You're not getting out of this one.
All right, bro, let me tell you a story. So, man, that's crazy.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
No, I do. I know. Yeah. My brothers and my god brothers gonna laugh when they see this. All right, I'm at Chuck E. Cheese of all places. Chuck E. Cheese in Tampa. I don't know about Chuck E. Cheese worldwide, but Chuck E. Cheese in Tampa, that's like where adults go to have hood parties with the children. Shit is terrible. So I'm at Chuck E. Cheese, my god brother and another guy having words, and whatever the case is, from their exchange, my god brother ready to fight. And his name Marquise. I'm telling him like, Keith, listen, it's too many of them. It's only like my family and my party had left already. We was just doing the cleanup, getting everything to the car. I'm like, bro, it's too many of them. We got our children with us. At this time, my oldest, who's about to be 17 in August, he's 1 year old. So I got a 1-year-old with me, baby mom. He has his wife with him and 2 small children, 1 small child. And I'm like, bro, listen, this ain't it. We outnumbered. I left the guns at home. Like, just let it go. He like, nah, fuck that. So it's a lot of them. The young lady on their side, she's like, hey, y'all grown men, this a place for children. Y'all just let it go. And him being hot-headed, man, not only did he turn it up 10 notches, but he punched the lady in the face first.
Whoa. Okay.
So he punched the lady first, and then her husband jump up like, of course, as a husband's supposed to do.
Yeah.
The husband come out like they're in the middle of the parking lot squaring off, man. He get the best of the husband. And when he did that, I'm just like, he gonna get us killed. Like, he can't, 1, you hit a woman, and then 2, you just beat up a couple. And like, we are heavily outnumbered. So yeah, man, long story short, I had a split-second moment. I was like, do I jump in the car and leave him? Or do I like try to hit somebody and go ahead and get my ass whooping too? Because it was just too many. And I chose option number 2 because I wasn't going to leave him. So I just ran up. I can't remember who I punched. I punched somebody and they whooped my ass for probably like, it had to be 60 seconds. I just felt myself swinging this way. But this all I'm doing the whole time, holding my neck. I'm like, this motherfuckers ain't getting his jury. Because I didn't have time to take my jury off. I had to think fast because he was moving so quickly. But they ended up getting it anyway. I remember they kept trying to pull me down because they were younger than me, but it was a lot of them. So I finally, I get to my knees, but I'm like, don't go down. If these motherfuckers stump me, I'm killing somebody. That's all I kept thinking about. Y'all not gonna kick me upside my head. No matter what y'all doing, y'all not gonna get this jury. But man, as when I placed my palms on the ground to get up, I just remember one of them, he was like, yeah, bitch ass nigga, give me that chain. Snatched the chain and then he ran off. Like 30 seconds later, I hear my baby mom screaming somewhere behind me. She chasing him through the parking lot, trying to fight him, but she ended up snatching my chain back from him and got in the car. But I took that very personal, and that's when I ended up using my resources to find them. And
how did you find some random people from Chuck E. Cheese using your 911 resources? This sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, so just off instinct and what I've been taught from my mom and my dad, remember tag numbers. So after I get done getting my ass kicked, one thing I did was I memorized that tag number. I look at the tag, I get it, I jump in the car, get to my phone, I send it to myself and save it. That following Monday, I go to work. The tag comes back to one of their grandmothers because the lady was pretty high up in age. But when it came back, of course, it's gonna give an address. So I go sit on this address for probably like 2 weeks in a row until I'm able to.
Wait. For 2 weeks, you were showing up to this old lady's house.
Absolutely.
Trying to find the guys that you got into a fight with.
Yeah, man.
Like it's a job. Like for 2 weeks, you were scoping the spot.
Listen,
like you were undercover, basically.
Vlad got this bad that my older brother, like, he went with me a couple times and he was like, bro, this shit's stupid. Get out, just get out the car and do what you gonna do. He was like, how many times we gotta sit here? I'm like, bro, we gonna do it. We just gotta do it. It's a clean way to do it. And I really learned that working in the sheriff's office. Like, it's a right and wrong way to do everything. You can literally provoke somebody and then leverage, stand your ground, and then go from there. So I'm telling him, like, bro, it's the right way to do it. We cannot just go willy-nilly to an old lady house and get active. But yeah, Vlad, I'm not gonna lie. The whole research aspect and watching them was a total of 8 months. I plotted, I thought about them day and night. And I'm not gonna lie, it hurt me that it took place in front of the mother of my son and my son. That's what, cause I was deserving of an ass whooping at that point. We was doing things and we was wilding too, so I respected the ass whooping. But it was the fact that women and children were present and they did that really, it bruised my ego real bad, and I couldn't wait to find them.
Well, you did finally find them, right?
Absolutely. Not every single one, but the top 5 I wanted, I found every single one of them.
Together or one by one?
3 of them were solo, 2 of them we found together. We hit the jackpot one day and found them together.
So 4 different times.
Yep.
And I guess you robbed them each time?
No, we ain't robbed. Well, one time, I wouldn't call it robbing. We more so wanted to belittle him. So we took his items, but we just threw him across the street and broke his phone and stuff like that. But we didn't necessarily take it for monetary gain.
And through all of these incidents, no police interaction, nobody files charges, nothing?
There was only one time we had police interaction. It's a mall in Tampa called University Mall. And I used to carry this old Navy bag, and it was big enough to put my Mac 11 in it. And I remember us seeing them. Well, first, my baby mom saw them. She called me. She like, hey, D, they in the mall. We followed them through the mall. We have a short fight, and we were still outnumbered. And we probably was going to run into the same fate that day, but I happened to have my Mac 11 on me, and we came out on top. And that day we did. This the same mom that I got shot at with. Same mom, and I'm cussing her out again. Drive this fucking car. But that was the closest we got to any police interaction. The other 3 times, we're all isolated. We did what we did, and we got out of there.
Well, this was happening around 2012, 2015, around that time?
I'll give it 2000. No, that's good timing, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if this was happening in 2025, there's going to be cameras everywhere.
Absolutely. People
are going to have, someone's going to be recording
somewhere. Somebody going to record the fight, all that, yep.
You would not have been able to walk away from these situations the way you were in the 2010s, basically.
I agree with that fully. And also, the level of hyper-violence we have these days, I'm sure if I try that today, somebody in that crowd going to have a switch and ain't nobody going to make it home. You're going to die right there on scene.
I mean, you were in your early 20s at that point.
Yeah.
You're 35 now?
35, yeah.
When you look back on that, do you say, well, I had to do what I had to do, or do you kind of feel ashamed over some of your actions?
I wouldn't say shame, but I will say when those stories are told to my children, they'll be told from a place of evolution and me telling them not to do the same dumb shit I did, because this category and this level of violence that they're up against, I don't think they'll be as lucky. And it's just not worth throwing your freedom away. At 35, if my god brother made that choice, I'm gonna get in the car and have to leave him. He gonna have to fight 20 motherfuckers on his own. I'm just not. It's just not a good idea for a father of 10 to be outside rumbling at Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, absolutely.
Right.
All those stories will be told from retrospect with a better way to handle those. And I tell people now, like, as I teach about guns and things of that nature, de-escalation is just as important as self-defense. You got to know when to walk away and just take your ass home and let it go.
Well, around 2012, you get fired from your 911 job. So
you got all the details.
I got it all. So then you got to figure out what to do next with your life. And you have how many kids at that point?
I have 2 children. I'm my 2 oldest children.
Okay, your 2 oldest kids.
Yep.
Which is still a lot because you're in your early 20s.
Yep.
So you have no job.
I'm 22 years old, yep.
22 years old, no job, 2 kids.
2 kids, a house, and 2 cars.
Okay.
Created a whole lifestyle off that income.
And now that income's gone.
Yep.
So what's your next step career-wise now?
Now I ain't gonna lie, that's a really great question and a cool story. So it's 2012. LeBron is peaking, KD is peaking. The Big Bang collection with the Foamposite, the LeBron 9, I can't remember what KD that was, all coming out. So I'm going to the mall one day. I'm actually out with the girl. So at this point, I have a live-in woman that I'm with. This is Derrick's mom. Derrick's mom is in the Air Force in Korea, somewhere in Korea. So it's me, Derrick's mom, and Derrick and Derricka. But I'm out with my side girlfriend at this point in the mall with her buying shoes. So I see a long line around the corner. I'm like, what they buying? Her aunt is a manager in Foot Action. And she's like, oh, they buying the LeBrons and this and that and the third. I'm like, cool. I'm like, how much they go for it? So she tell me the price point. I hear people in line arguing about them. So I'm like, damn, they really want these shoes. So I'm like, hey, ask your aunt, can she get me 2 pair instead of 1? She like, yeah. She get me the 2 pair and with her employee discount. I'm walking out in the store and the dude like, bro, I bought them from you right now. I'm like, how much? He was like, $400. I had just paid like $140 for them. I'm like, hell yeah, you take them both. So I made like, I'm not even looking at it as a business yet. I'm just like, shit, I just made some money walking through the mall. I get back in the car and on my way home, I'm like, damn, I really could sell shoes and start a retail business off the shoes if your aunt could get them for me consistently. But I really am still broke at this time. The sheriff's office had given me, it's called a 403B. It's similar to a 401k. It was only $1,100 in it, so I'm down to my last. And I just remember it was around February. The young lady I'm dealing with, Tequila, she got her taxes. I remember her dropping me off home one day and she was just like, hey, I got $1,500 left of my taxes. Like, if you need it, you can have it. And bro, I took her up on that offer. I started the retail business. I spent the whole $1,500 between creating a logo, trademarking it, and going to get some t-shirts made. Because that was my initial plan. Like, I'm going to make a clothing line and I'm going to make the colorways of the shirts coincide with the shoes. And yeah, that's how I started out. And I'm not going to lie, bro, it took me 9.5 months to get my first turn. Like, the idea was brilliant, but I still made no money. I still was broke for like another 9 months just trying to get people to buy my shit via Instagram. What was that ad thing? Was it Backpage? I can't remember, bro, but I was putting ads everywhere trying to get somebody to buy these shoes. And it took 9 months and somebody finally bought one. And that's when I took it on then as my full-fledged first entrepreneur venture in business.
Right. This was a Millionaire Bound.
Yep.
Right. Your first company.
Man, it's great.
Okay. And listen, I used to own a sneaker site, YouTube channel, Sneaker Watch.
Oh,
so I used to like...
Oh, are you on Sneaker Watch?
Yeah.
Bro, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's what's up.
It's been gone for a while, but I had a run with it, and I remember I was playing around with just so I could understand the culture. I started buying all the sneakers. I started flipping sneakers, and that's a rough game to be in.
It is.
That's not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination.
It's cutthroat too.
It's cutthroat. It's hard. Sometimes you buy stuff, the resale value isn't what it's supposed to be, and you're stuck with shoes. I can't tell you how many
times I did pre-orders, and my plug like, I got you, and the day of he like, man, the GM here, I can only get you 5, and I'm like, well, damn. I took 25 people money and I spent some of it already. He's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, that shit was rough. It was rough.
Okay. Well, 2016, you went viral for the first time, I think.
Yep.
Because there was a video of your daughter, Derrick, the same one that was in the back seat of the car during the shooting. And she was breaking down guns blindfolded.
Right.
What was the kind of the purpose behind the video? Did you even think about it, or was it something cool just to shoot?
Bro, it was something cool to shoot. I had no idea that we were going to go viral. I just knew based on my teachings, based on my experiences and the things that they had been exposed to, whether intentional or not, I wanted them to be extremely knowledgeable on guns. So, yeah, I remember she was talking about the Black Panthers, history, self-love, confidence, and breaking down the gun. So it initially started as my son is the only one of my 10 children that have been to grade school. I don't believe in grade school. I homeschool. I pulled him out at 7 years old, roughly 10 years ago. And that was what I implemented in like my in-home curriculum was y'all got to know how to do this. Y'all got to know who Huey P. Newton is, blah, blah, blah. Put the video out there and it just ended up going viral.
Okay, yeah, because I guess you had like 2,600 followers. You woke up the next day with 62,000
Yeah, man,
followers.
Life has never been the same since that. I woke up the next day and nothing was the same ever.
Okay, what platform was this on?
This IG.
IG?
Yep.
Okay, well, having 62,000 followers on IG is not really that big.
Right.
So it's not like you made $62,000.
No.
You know, it's just you have more followers now.
Right.
Which is cool, but you still have to figure out what to do with those followers.
Absolutely.
So how do you actually start monetizing those followers?
So the way I got into the monetization aspect is people started demanding, so people knew I homeschool, but I never got into the portion of writing my own curriculums prior to that. It wasn't until people started demanding like, hey, how you teach your kids this? How you teach your kids that? And man, I'm literally, I remember I'm chilling one day, I'm on a mushroom, and I just had the bright idea to go, oh, I should write this shit down and put it on paper. And you like, back then, there's no chat GPT. There's not even a lot of mentors, but it's 2012. Like, this is back when Instagram had 15-second videos. There was no such thing as Instagram Live, Instagram Stories, none of that. So people just kept making a demand, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll try my hand at writing a curriculum. I Googled what a curriculum should look like. I did the best I could, and then that's how I actually started monetizing the things that I was showing them through videos by selling curriculums on my website.
Okay, so you have how many kids at this point?
When Derrick goes viral, I have 4. I got 3 daughters and my oldest son.
Okay, 4 kids. Are they living with you, or are they living at their mother's houses?
No, they're living with me. So me and one mom, at one point, me and 2 moms lived together with her girlfriend. So all the children are
Wait. Okay. I'm not going to let you gloss over some of these points. So you're living together. So you're living in a house.
Yep.
With 4 kids.
Yep.
The mother of one of the kids. Mm-hmm. The mother of 3 other kids?
No. So, all right, I'm in the house with Tiff, and we have 1, Malaya.
Okay.
I'm in the house with J-Rock. We have 1, Derrick.
Okay.
And then Derrick's mom is, I don't think she's in Korea anymore. She's not in Korea. And then eventually, Melanie and Malaya are 5 weeks apart. So I get Jessica pregnant with number 2, and then I get Tiffany pregnant with our first child. So now collectively we have 2 children who are 5 weeks apart, with an older sister who is Derrick and an older brother who is Derrick. And then Jessica's girlfriend live with us as well.
And Jessica is who again?
That's Derrick and Melanie's mom. I know it's hard to remember.
So
it's
you're
5 moms
living
and 10 children.
With your 2 baby mothers and one of your baby mother's girlfriends.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that she was into women when you got her pregnant?
Yeah. So me and that mom we have an amazing relationship. She just hit me up one day. She was like, D. I'm like, what's up? She was like, what you doing? I'm like, I'm out of town, man. What's up? She's like, I really want to have another baby, but I don't want 2 baby daddies. And I was like, so what's up? What you want? And she's like, when you come back, let's have a baby. And I was like, all right, when I get back, be ready. And that's literally how it went. I came back maybe within 2 days of being in town. Same thing. We got high on mushrooms and we created Melanin.
Okay. Interesting household.
Very interesting.
Now, The curriculum, it includes Black history, like the Black Panthers, like you said. It also includes education about guns, including automatic weapons, like Uzis. Like, how big is this curriculum? Is it like a yearly curriculum for multiple years? Or?
So that very first one, Vlad, was only like 37 pages. It was the Unlearn and Relearn Parent-Child Curriculum Volume 1. The cover is, because I had a Benz back then, so I'm sitting on my real life Benz, and Derrick are sitting on their kid Benz that they drive around. That's what the cover looked like. But yeah, it was only 35 pages.
Okay, you have a 35-page curriculum, and you start selling these online?
Yeah, start selling these online, physical and digital.
For how much?
Early on, Vlad, I will say I did not know my value. Minimum curriculum is only like $20, if that. Super cheap.
Okay. And how many did you sell at $20?
Initially out the gate, if I could give a rough number, I know that year I probably sold close to 10,000 of them. When I went viral, like, we had the eyes of everybody.
$10,000 and $20 a shot.
Yeah.
If you're selling a digital copy, there's no cost.
Overhead. Yeah.
With a physical copy, a couple dollars maybe?
Yeah, back then, I'm choosing media mail. So media mail, they're giving me a great price until they caught on. They figured out I was doing media mail, and I got in trouble for that with the post office. But yeah, I'm doing media mail, dropping them in a little yellow manila envelope. So my overhead is probably $5 to $7 per.
Right, so you made close to $200,000.
Yep.
That first year. That's the most money you've ever made at that point.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah. How did that feel to really, to go from trying to flip sneakers where you're not going to make $200,000 unless you're stealing trucks or something, and just selling them flat out. Yeah. Trying to flip sneakers, you're not going to make $200,000. I don't know anyone who makes that type of money. But now you're actually making a product that you control, that you're creating. You're not going to Nike and, trying to, and that's the thing with sneakers. You're not even getting wholesale prices. You're going to retail.
We're getting taxed.
Yeah, no, everyone loses in that situation, right? So now you're creating your own product, and you're making over $100,000 by selling your own product. Did you feel at that point like, okay, this is my life's calling, I'm really going to devote myself to this?
I definitely felt it was my life calling, but I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to tell you how many nights I had never seen that much money myself. Like, most money I ever seen my dad with cash was probably 30 grand. Receipt of his, maybe 120,000, but nothing over that. So I had a lot of nights where I felt, I don't even know the word, but I just felt like this is not right. Like, we gonna go to jail tomorrow. We not supposed to have this type of money. It was a lot of times when my Shopify would be going up talking to my baby mom, like, this don't feel right. And she like, hey, dude, you working for it? And I'm like, I don't know, but what if somebody come find us for the money, or what we supposed to do with the money? So it was a relief because I was able to take care of my family on a great level. We started traveling out of the country and things of that nature, but it also was a little scary to manage that type of money by myself.
Well, you got to pay taxes on it.
Yep.
You need an accountant because, a lot of times that's how people get caught up. They make a bunch of money. They're like, it's all mine. No, it's not. The government owns a piece of that.
I did get caught up too eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got caught up with that.
Okay. Are you investing your money at this point, or are you mostly spending it?
No, most of the money I'm actually hiding it because early on I've never been a fan of the banks. I'm still not. I don't like the interest rates. I don't like a lot of stuff they do. So I'm actually
wait. But you don't get an interest rate in terms of what? Putting it into an account and getting an interest on it?
Yeah, I personally just feel like there was more. Now remember, I'm in mid-20s, so I'm not nowhere near as educated as I am now.
Okay.
But early on, I'm just like, nah, keep the money out the bank. Fractional reserve banking, this and that. I got all my banking words people been putting into me, or I know that I feel like I just got this bank conspiracy theory figured out. So every time I would get money, I would go withdraw it and either hide it at my house or my dad's house.
Right. The only problem with that is that because of inflation, if you just keep it in cash, you're technically losing money every day.
Right. I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, I know now. Yeah.
But back then, I get it. I remember when I first started getting money, I started reading books on Warren Buffett and seeing how he did it, and reading Benjamin Graham, which the person he learned from. And I'm like, okay, I've tried to flip my money in the past so many times, giving it to people who said they could double and triple it. And every time it would end up, losing all the money.
Same here.
So I'm like, okay, I'm realizing now that the money's coming. I need to learn how to invest it.
Right.
And for me, investing in stocks was the greatest choice of my life. Like, I would not be where I am today if I just kept spending the money I was making.
Right.
I would be still paycheck to paycheck. So you're making money, and now you're making hundreds of thousands. You're just keeping it, what, under your mattress pretty much?
Yeah, literally. I had a duffel bag that I kept under my mattress, and then I had a tote bag that I kept at my dad's house. And the plans was to invest. I did start investing eventually, but I just was real. I ain't gonna lie, but I just never had seen that type of money. So I was like, I'm not letting the bank hold 500,000. I'm gonna hold my 500,000.
All right. Wasn't there a video where you had you counted 400,000 cash?
Yeah. That was me. Now at that point, by that time I had 5 children, because I remember one of my babies is literally crawling around. That's knowledge. But yeah, me and Derrick sat down and we counted out like 430 grand cash.
And this is on video.
Yeah, it's on
video. You're publicly releasing.
Right.
Me personally, I'd be a little scared.
I know exactly what you got to say.
Because now you got this money that's basically cash.
Yep.
It's a little different. You could rob someone for cash and get away with it. You can't rob someone's bank account.
Right.
So do people know where you live and everything during this time?
They do, Vlad. So that's why I ended up moving. That's why I ended up moving, right? So look.
Because of that video, huh?
We started getting, it was never bad attention, but just the fact that people knew where I was started creeping me out. So I remember it was 2 different occasions, like somebody followed me home just to say what's up or be like, hey, I'm a big fan. And I remember at that moment having a conversation. So by this time, those 2 moms have moved out. We've parted ways. We're co-parenting, but we're no longer in a relationship. I'm in a whole brand new relationship. And Vlad, I remember looking up one day, in total cash, I had $4.3 million in the bank. And I was just like, it's time to go. I remember, me and this young lady ended up having a baby too, but she's visiting from Atlanta. We go in my room and my side of the bed is like on the floor. Her side is up in farmhouse supposed to be, and she was like, Derrick, this shit don't make no sense. You got all that money and you sleeping on the floor? Because she had never seen my house in Florida. And I was just like, man, I'm hustling. I don't care about the damn bed. But shortly after that is when I started investing heavy in real estate. And I took that 4.2, and I spent almost every dime on it, on real estate. Well, the 4 principles I live by: gold, guns, land, and self-love. But
okay, so what did you buy with that 4.3 million?
Me and my dad partnered up. We opened up our gun store down in Tampa, Grace's Ultimate Guns.
Okay. Still around?
Yeah, it's still around.
Okay.
We opened up a security company, Grace Private Security. We do dignitary, personal, private.
Huh.
I spent a great deal of it on real estate. And the rest of it went into gold, fine art. I'm big on art. I got an art gallery in my home.
What artists?
They're all like independent artists, so no big names.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I used to own, signed prints by Keith Haring.
Oh, really?
I got a Murakami, signed print. I never got to the point of getting originals for these guys, but these are like $5-10 million pieces.
Right. Absolutely.
I couldn't afford it. But yeah, I dabbled in the art world. The problem sometimes with art is that, number one, you need insurance.
Yeah.
So you're paying every year just to own the art.
Right.
And then when you sell, unlike selling a stock where you could, I could sell, like $1 million worth of Google right now for $0 instantly. You sell art, you got to go to like Christie's. They go through the auction process and they take like 25-30% commission. I remember they hustled me. They were like, hey, you should price it a little bit lower so it could build up more.
Right.
Not telling me that if there's a greater jump from the initial price, they get a higher commission percentage.
Right.
So
that happened to me with an estate sale. I tried to do one. The guy was like, he ended up being honest eventually. He was just like, I'm gonna be real with you, because I got a dining room set that's like $40,000 I got from Vegas. And he was like, yeah, man, nobody's biting on it. You want to just let me take it? And I'm like, sure, I want to get rid of it. How much? And he was like, well, because of your proximity, there's nobody in a 100-mile radius who typically can afford this type of stuff. So he was like, either drive it back to Vegas or just give it to me for $1,500. And in that moment, I just was like, yeah, this art shit is a little tricky. I don't know if I like this game.
Yeah, it's a rough game.
Yeah.
It's a rough game. And yeah, certain pieces do appreciate, but other ones, it's hard to say, especially talking about independent artists, new artists and so forth. It's a rough game to be in. The face tattoos, when did they start?
That started 2012 when I lost that job at the sheriff's office. Okay. I struggled really bad with procrastination, and I just absolutely knew there was no way in hell I was going to become a full-fledged entrepreneur without like being forced to. So that was just like my moment of burning that bridge and saying I was never going back to work again. The first one I got, it's on this side, I think. It looks like an A, it's an ancient symbol of strength. And then 2, the pain wasn't that bad. So by like week 2, I had 9 total. And I was just like, yeah, the hell with it. And 2, it was like my way of telling my family to leave me the fuck alone, because they was calling me every day. You need to get a job. You got kids. You need to do this. You need to do that. So once I did that, it silenced them and it just put me in grind mode because I had to make it at that point.
Yeah, I've heard this story before. Like, I think Daylight told me this story. He had like the Spawn tattoo on his face. He said that he was working at like Taco Bell and like someone pulled up and wanted like 50 tacos. And he was just like, man,
shout out to Daylight.
I'm never going to do this again. He goes to tattoo parlor. He says the first parlor didn't even want to do it. Right. He had to go to like 3 or 4 different ones until someone agreed to do it. You know, face tats weren't big back then.
And I'm gonna tell you, like, what these are all the things that led me to getting a face tattoo. So I'm working Taco Bell, I'm working the back drive-through. So we close and it's just me and Rodney, right? But he's the owner, like he's the store owner, and it's just me and him. So he's on the phone. So I think we close in maybe like, I'll say like 2 minutes. 2 minutes before the clock, somebody drives through and orders 400 tacos. I guess they had a party. They had a party like right across the street, right? I laid all the tacos, like maybe like 200 shells across the thing, bro. I got the meat, right? Lettuce, like I just literally I made all the tacos. Like I did it, like literally I threw the meat everywhere. It was all over the shells. I put the fucking lettuce all over the shells, cheese, tomatoes, sour cream everywhere, bro. Like I just went mayhem all over. Then when he came back, he was like, you made the tacos? And I was like, yeah, there you go. And it was just taco juice everywhere, bro.
Just a taco bomb.
Like taco bomb. Like, and I was like, man, I'm out. And like I walked out. I'm like, yo, I can't go back to work. I got to find a way to block myself from going back to work. Like, even if I want to go back, I can't. I got to chase my dream no matter what. She was like, what you going to do? And I went to the bathroom and I drew it on first. And I was like, I'm getting this tattooed. And she was like, don't do it. She started crying. She's like, don't do that to your face. I did it.
I think Lil Uzi Vert did the same thing.
Yeah, I dealt with that a lot. People would tell me no. And then I found that one artist that would, and I let him do his thing. Because there was like people like, man, I think you should just go home and think about this. I don't think you should do this right now.
Yeah, it's face tats are an interesting thing because for every Derrick that ends up blowing up as an entrepreneur, there's 20 other guys that end up working at McDonald's.
Yep,
because their music career didn't work out. You know, whatever their hustle was, maybe like the whole gang life they were 100% into didn't pan out. They had kids, you know, and I remember seeing some of these guys working like Jack in the Box, and I'm just like, this role, when you got this, I don't think this was the intention of where you ended up. So,
absolutely.
You know, I support that you did it, but for everyone that's watching this, think long and hard.
Oh, no, Vlad, I agree, man. It's so many things I did in the course of my career that I would tell people, don't do that. Like, do that a better way, or it's better ways to express yourself, or you could do the hard part in life and actually just work on yourself to create better habits and be more disciplined and be more consistent and not go, I'm going to tattoo my face so I can't get hired. Like, how about you just work on the core of who you actually are and rise to the occasion and do what you said you was going to do?
You know, when we talk, I don't feel like any different than when I talk to anybody else, right? You know, intelligent guy, well-spoken, you know, great ideas, you know, hardworking entrepreneur and so forth. But for people that don't know you and until you open your mouth when you're walking around, how did it feel when, you know, people are staring at you with these face tats, like older people and so forth?
Yeah. So, you know what, Vlad, I'm gonna pass the blame. I'm gonna give like 30% of the blame to Mike Tyson, right? There's a video called My Come Up. It was a website called My Come Up. They used to have a YouTube channel. Mike was on there and he talked about the mental aspect of competition and how he was able to defeat people with eye contact alone just based on that animal instinct that he had. So early on, that also played a part in the tattoos. But I know exactly what you mean. There are a lot of people who may discount me before we even articulate back and forth before we have a conversation, or they're just standoffish period and don't want to do business at all. So that's why I say I agree with you, because I have missed out on countless opportunities just based off my appearance.
Well, yeah, when Mike Tyson got his face tat, he was already
Mike Tyson
worth $100 million.
Right.
And everyone knew him. He was the most famous person on earth. So it didn't matter what he had on his face.
Right.
But a typical person that does it, and look, I have lots of friends who have face tats and so forth. And, you know, it did work out well for a lot of them.
Right.
But I'm always concerned when people, especially young people who are still teenagers and so forth, once they do that,
right,
and they don't necessarily have the money to get it removed, that could really affect them later on in life, because most people have regular jobs.
Right.
The entrepreneurs are the minorities.
Right.
So you have to think about that.
I agree fully.
Okay, so at one point you started writing books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you have a few of these here, right?
Yep, I got a few of them.
Can we check them out?
Yep, so this is the one, Gods Amongst Men, Volume 1. This is the one that made me a best-selling author.
Okay. What's the whole thing behind this book?
All right, so this book specifically, it's more so affirmations, but it's more so me giving people affirmations from a God-like state. I'm not into religion. Closest thing I feel to God is my mom and dad besides myself. So that is basically me speaking from that perspective. And what's interesting is, where's the other one? It's still in my bag, but my first book I ever wrote was called Thank God We Don't Look Like What We've Been Through.
Okay, do you have your bag right here?
So,
that is thick.
Yeah, this is a 700-page autobiography about my life.
700-page autobiography.
Yeah, man, it took me 9 months.
You have something to say. All right.
It took me 9 months to write that. And that's chronicled from like age, I think, 4 all the way up until 25. Yeah, 24, 25. But it's just funny, like, the way the events work. So I'm literally thanking God I don't look like what I've been through in this book. And then I'm basically speaking from, like, my God-like state in this book, because just mentally going through different things and different awakenings, I got away from religion completely, and I started just solely relying on myself to self-govern and get me where I need to be.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Jewish by blood, but I'm not religious.
Right.
Me and Millie's, the rapper, got into a whole argument about this the other day, where he's convinced he had a situation where he was about to get into a shootout and he reached in his pocket and the gun had like fallen apart.
Yeah, I remember that.
He's sure that God disassembled this gun.
Right.
And I'm like, there's so many other
variables,
options for this happening, as opposed to an invisible man going into your pocket and disassembling the gun. But people that believe it, you're not going to convince them otherwise.
Absolutely.
He thinks I'm crazy for not believing God. But I'm like, okay, that's the only reason the gun came apart?
Right.
And, I'm a gun owner. Guns sometimes, you could...
Especially if you don't take care of it. It's going to fall apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and you sold over 50,000 books?
Yeah, so this one specifically, it's 4 different chapters to this, not chapters, series.
Okay.
The Gods Amongst Men, Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. But this one specifically has sold over 50,000 times since 2006. Yeah, when Derrick went viral, that's what made that book go #1 on Amazon.
Well, I guess what I find interesting, and look, you and I probably have somewhat of a similar audience to a certain degree.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Right? I'm sure it overlaps.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot.
No, man, when I mentioned people, I'm going to Vlad, everybody excited
knows,
as a motherfucker. Like, you going to Vlad? Yeah, I'm going to Vlad.
So I just feel like my audience is not going to read a 700-page book.
Agree.
Right? Reading in general, I feel like my audience, I would have a hard time pushing like an actual book to my audience.
I agree.
Did you think about that coming into it?
I didn't. I had to learn that lesson hard early on. I remember, like, even as I was making money, it would fluctuate at times. And I remember just like going through it. I remember going through a state of depression, like when the money like completely started to, it wasn't gone, but it was nothing like what it was previously. And I remember having a conversation with David Banner. He's a good friend of mine. He was telling me, he's like, to not hang my hat and my results on the response of the people. If you know internally that you're doing what you got to do and you gave it your best, that's what you hang your hat on. But people are going to fluctuate. Seasons are going to fluctuate. 30,000 people are going to love it. 100,000 are going to say the hell with it. I'm not touching it. So I had to really master that, because I used to have an emotional take to people supporting me and not supporting me early on.
Yeah, I always, one of the things I've always liked to say is that you see all these posts about, yeah, your friends will buy a Louis Vuitton bag and spend $1,500, but they won't buy the bag that you make and support you as a friend. And I always had to say, listen, I don't know a single human being that became successful because of their friends buying their products.
Exactly.
Every person I know has become rich is because a bunch of strangers bought their products.
Right.
You don't have enough friends to financially support you through your products. So stop harassing your friends over your bullshit t-shirt.
I agree.
And think about actually marketing it to your audience.
Right.
And stop getting all upset and ruining friendships and falling out with people because they're not going out of your way to support your dream, which is your dream, not theirs. You agree on this?
No, I agree fully.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never went through that phase, but I did go through the phase where I'm like, damn, I'm giving y'all, in terms of the people and the people who follow me, I'm giving y'all my all. I'm doing the research. I'm giving y'all the solutions. And y'all still rather invest in bullshit. I did, like, early on, I went through those phases probably 3-4 years in a row until he sat me down and just gave me a better perspective and a better way to look at it.
Yeah, I think, who said it really well? Rick Rubin, where he said, when it comes to art and music and specifically, great art doesn't necessarily mean great sales.
Right.
When you release a project, there's so many variables. Like, what other projects are dropping on that same day? What's happening in the world?
Yep.
You know, like I remember, like, the day that the Jacksons started their reunion world tour was 9/11.
Right.
Nobody gave a shit about that concert, right? Nobody gave a shit about that concert.
Yeah.
It would have been a huge deal on any other day, but on that day, the world did not care about music.
Right.
It cared about what was happening with those Twin Towers. So, yeah, you can't really take it too personally. You got to just keep grinding it out.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, you sold over 50,000 books independently.
Yeah, independently. I've never had a distribution deal, publishing in it. I've done everything, absolutely everything in-house.
You know, and I've talked to book publishers. I've had, like, book deal offers before, which I didn't take. But is there a reason why you didn't go with, like, you know, after you had the track record of selling independently, did you talk to big publishers about pushing your product?
So not the book, but the board game. There was a conversation with Hasbro.
Oh, okay.
And,
it's as big as it gets, pretty much. With
yeah.
board
And
games.
it was that conversation. The conversation went well, but just the things that basically this is what they said. It was 3 things that stood out to me. If you do a deal with Hasbro, you have to attach Opoly to the game. So I don't know if you've seen other board games, but you'll see like Oaklandopoly or this Opoly. They make sure that you're going to essentially become a mascot for their brand because
Monopoly.
Yeah, every time you sell your shit, you're going to make sure their name attached to it inside of the packaging and all. Number 2 was, I remember like there's a portion of my board game where I talk about the disparities between the sentencing of crack cocaine and powder cocaine culturally and how it affects different cultures. I remember the guy telling me, he was like, I'm not telling you what to put in the game, but you're going to have to, quote unquote, soften the information. And oh yeah, and the other one was they also control your amount of units of production per year. And that was something I didn't want. So like, if I'd have signed a deal, they basically could have told me like, all right, well, we'll in-house 20,000 copies of the game and then you get another 20,000 copies next year. And I just was like, nah, I'm doing too many units. I'd rather just do it the hard way, go independent, do the business with China, and then handle it myself when they make it to the States.
Well, but I'm assuming you would have had to change the game because Hasbro is not going to sell a game involving crack cocaine.
Absolutely not.
Right? Let me just,
he said,
I'm just going to go on a wild step here and just assume this.
When he said soft and arduous times, I was like, they're going to make me change my whole game. Yeah. Because the game teaches real shit. It talks about like, man, I can't tell you how many bankers. We used to do this back years ago. My daughter would go in the bank and ask the teller, like, do you know what fractional reserve banking is? And a lot of them did. It was just a lot of stuff in the game. And I remember talking with my team at that time. And I was like, we're going to have to change the whole damn game. We go at Hasbro. They're not having this shit.
Well, you have the game right there.
Yeah. I got the game.
Let's go ahead and show it.
This is the in-home banking board game. It was my fun and creative way to teach people group economics. Financial literacy.
What is group economics?
For me, group economics, one, is something I feel like culturally we don't do enough of. I feel like it would solve a great deal of our problems if we understood the power in numbers rather than individuality. Like one of the biggest examples for me, I'm still trying to get my family to do with group economics, is let's say we are based in LA County. We got 20 relatives. That means we got 20 different households. We got 20 different rents, 20 different light bills. There's a lot going on. Group economics, one of the best examples I can give, and I'm actively still trying to do this with the people I love because it's just hard to get it through to them. But if you took those 20 people and said, hey, let's collectively put our bread together and get land and get a 20-person paying mortgage, you could have a lot more power and a lot more leverage and a lot more paid off in a quick amount of time. So for me, that's one of the biggest things. One of the biggest examples I give with group economics in terms of family and culture. It's like you'll have 30 relatives in one city who are struggling. 20 of us late on the rent. 20 of us can't pay the water. 20 of us getting extensions on the lights. We can mount up together and really like have a more powerful stance and a powerful foundation. But yeah, culturally, we just haven't got there yet.
I mean, you see that with certain cultures. I think
Absolutely.
Like with Indians,
Yep.
They're really big on this.
Yep.
Like they'll all live in a small apartment and they'll all like pool their money together until someone could buy a house.
Right.
That first person in line will buy a house, move out, and then the process will start over
repeat
for the next
cycle.
person.
Yeah.
But everyone is basically, 5-6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment living under their means so they could actually get that money so people could be self-sufficient.
Exactly.
But you don't see that in other cultures too much.
I've seen it down in Florida. I hope I'm not saying this wrong. I believe they are Mexican, but they do it too. Like they'll come 30 deep to a construction site. You'll look up in 5 years and now they got 6 houses. Or I've seen the Asian culture with the nail shops. They're gonna have the babies in there working, the kids, auntie, grandma, everybody. Then 3 years later, they got 8 franchises and they controlling the city and bleeding out the other cultures because that's their go-to to get their nails done.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely power in that, especially when individuals don't have a lot of money.
Right.
You could pull it together. Yeah, but it's hard to do because everyone still wants their own place.
Yep.
Everyone still wants cable. Everyone wants a car.
Yeah.
People don't want to go without.
No, that's a fact.
Yeah. Well, by 2020, you're making $1.5 million a month.
Yeah, I was. That was my highlight year. That has been and still is my greatest year in business.
Well, you also got to understand that this was COVID.
Yep.
Everyone was making money during this time, including me.
Yeah.
I bought my house in cash.
I did too.
During that time.
Yeah.
That's a great feeling, isn't it?
It was, man.
Knowing that all you have to pay is property taxes.
I ain't gonna lie, I still hate that feeling. But no, I agree with you.
Well, you can't get around that.
Right. That is a great... Speaking of that real quick, I've seen the back and forth with you and Yayo. Yeah. And I just want to say, bro, I agree with you 100%.
Right.
It took me years to get there.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people don't realize like ownership is a facade if you cannot handle those property taxes.
Do you know how many people DM me and said how stupid I was to pay $15,000 a month rent, regardless of how I broke it down?
Right.
When I'm like, listen, when you have a mortgage, you are paying 98% interest. You're paying rent to the bank.
Right.
Because, well, you go have something to show. You have nothing to show for it.
Yep.
You could buy $1 million house and pay a mortgage for 10 years out of a 30-year mortgage, sell the house, and still owe damn near $1 million.
Right.
All those mortgage payments are just going to the bank for interest.
Agreed.
That's it.
Yeah.
Then you got to talk about property taxes. Then you got to talk about the maintenance.
Yep.
Then you got to talk about just weird shit happening out of the blue.
And see, bro, that's one of the big things I feel like people don't talk about enough is the maintenance.
Yeah.
Like my crib back home in Tampa, 7,000 feet, 7 bedroom, 7 bath. Those 7 sound so amazing when I tell people. But when I tell them like it takes 3 air conditioners to take care of the whole house.
Oh yeah.
One broke, and I remember it costing me $11,000. I was sick about that
exact
$11,000.
Same thing happened to me. I have a 7,000 square foot house in Calabasas. Air conditioner comes out, goes out in the middle of summer.
Right.
That's it. You have to fix it. It's not an option.
Yeah, in Florida ain't no option.
It's no option. You're living in hell at that point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it was the upstairs air conditioner. Like, everyone had to sleep downstairs until this thing got fixed.
Yep.
When you're renting, you call up your landlord and they fix it. Zero cost.
Bro, when I tell you my mind has changed because I went through some changes with my real estate. I made it was a good investment at one point, but it turned out to be bad. But when I saw y'all have that combo where I resonated with 100%, I'm like, I think you really got to go through the other side of it for you to really pick up that knowledge. Because people just see it from this one side. But when you've dealt with the maintenance and the upkeep of... So like I bought my house. I bought my mama house 2 doors down. And then I went and bought another $1 million house in Georgia. And when you have those months where a pipe break in this one, AC in this one, and your mom don't have the means, but you do to fix something on this one, that's when you like, man, I wish I rented these motherfuckers. I could just pick up the phone and that's y'all problem.
Renting makes sense in certain situations. Owning makes sense in certain situations. I hate when people say, well, you got to buy property because they're not making any more land.
Right.
Well, they're also not making any more water, but water is not necessarily a great investment.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like I hate these little catchphrases that get stuck in people's minds that automatically make them think. And listen, I almost feel like owning a home as the American dream was a hustle that the banks put together because the way that these loans are structured are predatory in a way. I mean, think about it. You could have a house, you could have a mortgage you pay off for 25 years. You stop, making payments.
Mm-hmm.
The bank will take your house and not pay you back any of the money you've already paid over those 25 years and then sell your house and keep the profits.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have the money to buy a house in cash, I would say to do it.
Right.
But that's a luxury.
Absolutely.
Like all the money I've really made really has been off of property.
Right.
I've always bought property because I wanted to own a house at various times, but I don't really consider them investments. And if you look at, for example, my interviews with Grant Cardone, who's a billionaire, he said a single family home is a bad investment. You should rent. He said, basically, I said, when people are like, oh, well, I'll buy a duplex. He said, even that's a waste of time. He's like, if you really want to be serious about real estate, get 8 units or more.
Gotcha.
That's when it really starts becoming a real business.
And I learned that the hard way. Yeah. I went back, great grandma's house I bought. It's in a historic part of Tampa called Ybor City. My grandma under her, I bought her home. I bought the home I was raising with my dad, and then I bought my $1 million home. And I'm buying all these things cash. So I spent $1 million in a day on my house, like $980 on mom's. And I remember my dad calling one day, and he was like, hey, the air conditioner at one of the houses broke. And I'm like, all right. And he was like, son, why you not renting these houses? And I was like, Dad, this is where I grew up. I don't want to rent them. And he was like, listen, all that sentimental shit you got going on with these houses, son, you gonna go broke. Cause you got 7 different properties right now. You gotta go cut the grass or you finna get fines from the city. So he was like, you could ignore it, but the fines will find you. And then when he broke it down and helped me understand, bro, I realized, and I did that for like 3 years. And I realized, like, I got emotional attachments. I'm like, that's grandma's house. And he was like, man, you better sell that motherfucker or rent it. Do something with it. But right now, like, what you thinking is a asset are going to turn into liabilities in the next coming months. Because you're going to have 7 bills from 7 different homes.
No, I agree, man. I feel like whenever I push this narrative, people think I'm racist. Like, people think I'm trying to get black people to keep renting forever. And just all this, like, dumb shit. And I'm just like, I rented for years until it made sense to buy a home. For most people, I think you're better off renting.
I agree.
For most people.
Yeah.
Until you hit, and it also depends. Certain areas it is cheaper to buy. It also depends on the interest rates. It depends on how much you're going to put down and so forth. If you look at historically, with damn near any chart you look at any moment in history, investing in the stock market is always more profitable than investing in real estate.
Absolutely.
Over time. Do you invest in stocks at all?
I did. I lost like $60K because I think the guy just wasn't who he said he was, but that shit scared me so bad that I haven't revisited the situation.
Well, I don't know the details, but from what you're telling me, the biggest problem is you had a guy tell you what to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to you
I
figuring out what to do.
I entrusted him with the money, gave it to him, and then,
Yeah, I never tell anyone to do that.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to Lil Bibby today, and he was like, I'm like, how's your portfolio doing? He's like, oh, it's a little down, but I'm still up this many millions. So, and me and him just got together one day and I just showed him my portfolio and I said, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
Go do what you want to do.
Right.
And he ended up taking my advice and buying like a bunch of Apple stock and stuff like that, and along with the dividends, he made out.
Yeah.
But he did it himself.
Gotcha.
And that's what I always tell people. I always like, listen, like, don't have someone else invest your money for you, because then you depend on that person to make the stock moves for you. Go and, read books like Warren Buffett's autobiography, and other investment books. Even read Investing for Dummies, because a lot of that really teaches you dollar cost averaging and some of the basics. Because a lot of it is really, it's emotional, right? And too many people end up being in your boat, meaning they go and invest some money, they lose it, either because they're having someone else deal with it, or it drops and they panic. And then they think this whole thing is a scam and I'll never do it again.
No, I'm not gonna lie, this is exactly what happened. I gave this guy $250,000. Within maybe like a week and a half, he's like, bro, I lost $69K. And I remember times like, you better send me my motherfucking money now. Right.
But the reality is that you only lost $69K because you decided to pull it out.
Right.
On paper, a paper loss, like I'm probably down $1 million right now in my portfolio, but I didn't sell, so I really didn't lose anything.
Right.
I understand the way the tariffs are working. The whole market is panicking right now.
Absolutely.
So me and Michael Blackson were on the phone the other day, and it was just like, he's like, yo, my portfolio was down 200,000. I said, get my shit out of there. And I'm like, bro, I know why you're doing it, but you're not doing it for the right reasons. Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy.
Yep.
So a lot of times the market goes down, everyone panics and they sell. Market goes up, and like everyone starts to buy because they don't want to miss out on the next big thing. And that's like the exact opposite way of investing. And one of the things that I learned is this, and you could probably relate to it because of what you went through. It's all really based on psychology and your emotions. You have to keep your emotions under control. And this is why. Let's say you gamble $1,000. Winning $1,000, doubling your money, has the same emotional response as losing $100.
Right.
That doesn't make any logical sense, right? Losing 10% of your money is not really that big of a deal.
Right.
Doubling your money is a big deal, but doubling your money and losing 10% has the exact same emotional response. So when people start to lose money, like when you lost that $60,000, they start to panic.
I definitely did.
And they start to sell everything, and then they leave the market for years.
That's literally what happened.
You're an example of what I'm talking about. And I could tell you, if you had, now I don't know what stocks you're invested in, but I bet you.
I remember one was crude oil. That's all I can remember.
Okay, see, I also only invest in things that I actually know about.
Gotcha.
That's always been my thing. Like right now, at this very moment, all my money is in Amazon, Google, and Tesla.
Gotcha.
That's because I've owned like 6 Teslas.
Right.
Everything I buy is off of Amazon.
That's my favorite car too. I love the Tesla.
Exactly. I have a Model X Plaid.
Yeah.
Fastest car in America. No one wants to race me in it. And my business is built on YouTube and Google.
Right.
So I am closely connected to all these products, all these businesses on a daily basis. I have a pretty good idea within my lifetime, Amazon will not go down to zero.
Right. For sure.
Tesla's not just going to go away.
Right.
Google and YouTube are here to stay.
Yeah, they ain't going nowhere.
They'll fluctuate with the market.
Right.
But they're not going to go down to zero. Like that's ridiculous. That's never going to happen. But, to know that you actually believe in a product when the price goes down. So for example, I bet you if you looked at your old portfolio, you could go back and look at it, see exactly where your stocks were. If you had bought more stocks during that time instead of selling,
right,
instead of losing 60,000, you could have been up 120,000 if you had waited, let's say, 6 months or a year.
No, I'm with you. I just know what you're saying is spot on though, because I got in panic mode. I wasn't even polite. I called bro and was aggressive, like, hey, you better get my money back to me by tomorrow. That's your ass. And he got it back to me, but yeah, mentally though, I wasn't ready. I know I wasn't ready because even like I got relationships with people who do stocks now, the Wall Street Trappers, the Aristotle Investments, and that's a great deal of what they talk about is just the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
And you people get in their fields and this is business, pull out, and now you missed a good thing.
Not only, so for example, like right now, I'm in a situation where I have a whole bunch of costs that I have. Like I have hundreds of thousands that I have to spend.
Right.
The original idea was, okay, as these bills come in, I'm going to chip off at my stocks. But then the whole tariff war happened.
Right.
And everything dropped.
Yes.
So doing that didn't make any more sense because I knew that in 6 months or a year, all these stocks will go up another 30, 40%. But when you have a stock portfolio, that's a real asset. So I'm able to take something called an LMA loan. I could take loans against my stock portfolio at a very low interest rate.
I didn't know you could do that.
You could absolutely do that.
Yeah,
I just had $50,000 transferred to my account today with a phone call.
Oh, that's what's up.
And it's a loan that goes against your stock portfolio that you pay back when you feel like paying back. There is no payment structure like a mortgage or some other structured loan. If you don't pay it back, the interest starts to accrue.
Okay.
But the interest is a relatively low interest rate because it's being backed up by an actual asset, which is your stock portfolio. They know that at the end of the day, they could just seize your stock portfolio if you, and until you hit a certain threshold, you could just keep borrowing.
Gotcha.
So it's a way of actually taking a loan against your stocks without actually selling your stocks.
Yeah, you're playing the bank for yourself at that point.
You're playing the bank for yourself. I actually used that partially to buy my house.
Gotcha.
A lot of shit out there, man.
Yeah, you live and you learn, because I had no knowledge on any of that years ago. I just know he lost that money, and I was like, give it back. I'm out. And I never went back. I will say it financially scared me to the point I was like, a $60,000 hit. I ain't never doing that shit again, and got out.
Well, if you had gone a different way, you probably would have made an extra $1 million.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah.
And look, I've beaten the market probably 13 years out of 15. I've done pretty well, but I've also done some really stupid shit along the way.
Right.
Like I remember right before the pandemic, I watched, Berkshire Hathaway, they own a bunch of stocks. As a public company, every 3 months, they'll tell you all the stocks that they bought in the previous quarter. So I'll look through what they buy and sell to just maybe give me some ideas. So at one point, one of the companies that they jumped into was a furniture company called Restoration Hardware. They sell really high-end furniture. I wasn't totally familiar with them, but it seemed okay. It seemed like really cool stuff. I put in $150,000 into Restoration Hardware. And then COVID hit.
Right. Oh yeah, COVID fucked up everything, shipping wise, products,
everything,
raw material.
Everything got messed up. And I'm thinking, COVID is coming. Who the hell is going to be buying furniture? This is going to be the last thing that people buy. They're going to be worried about food and, a roof over their head. I didn't think that over the next 6 months, everyone's getting all this money and moving out of apartments and moving into homes in the suburbs and buying furniture.
Absolutely.
So as the stock is dropping, I start to panic and sell it. And I think out of the 150,000, I probably lost, let's say, 30, 40,000.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, at least I got out of it.
Right.
I remember I looked one day, a couple of years later, that stock, that 150,000 was worth 1.5 million had I kept it.
Damn, 10 times?
It went up 10 times.
That's crazy.
I recently, in one of my new places, I bought an $11,000 Restoration Hardware couch just to remind myself that this is a $1.5 million couch that I'm sitting on right now of money I could have made if I just sat down and not panicked.
And you know what, Vlad, now that you say that, I remember that, because I remember I went to American Signature to purchase something for one of my homes back then, and they had a wait list. It was a lot of people that was buying furniture still back then, despite, and they, even with the wait, because I know I was one of them, I hopped my ass right on that wait list too, and was like, cool, here go the money. When it comes, just give me a call and I'll come pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I vividly remember that.
Yeah. So you have how many kids?
10 children. Technically 9. One of my daughters passed last year, but I still count.
One of your daughters passed?
Yeah.
From what?
They chalked it off as SIDS.
Oh, sudden infant death syndrome?
Sudden infant death syndrome.
So she was what, a couple months old? Or?
Yeah, she was a couple months old.
How hard was that?
Bro, it was really hard. Really, the physical aspect of seeing her was really hard. And the way it happened, so this is the mom that I have 5 daughters with. So I saw her at 6 o'clock. I was there. I hugged all my girls, said bye, went home. And then mom called me in a panic, back to back later that night. And bro, it's still hard to put in words. I remember just answering the phone and she was just like, Dynasty is dead. And at first it didn't even register. I'm like, stop playing. That was my first thought, but I'm like, she don't play like that. Who the fuck would play like that 11 o'clock at night? So I'm like, what? And she just she's dead. And I'm like, the fuck you mean she dead? How she dead? How did she die? I couldn't even receive it at that point. So I just dropped everything and drove over there. She lived 10 minutes away. And then I'm not gonna lie, that scene was just, it was real eerie. My daughters, they're crying. Mom is pacing. I can tell mentally she just done went somewhere else. And I just remember early on as a baby, they kind of stay in this state of they nestled up, almost they're still in in the womb and whatnot. And I remember walking in and like she literally arms like completely out, legs limp, and you can tell visibly like she's gone, she's dead. So I remember calling 911, which it made it even harder because the fire department is like, well, we need you to perform CPR, and I'm like, shit, I ain't gonna say no, and I would hope like hell like maybe a miracle happens. I don't know about CPR, but maybe this shit works. So I'm doing CPR and whatnot, trying to revive her. And what was really creepy and like, I don't know, it was just a really fucked up feeling. She had a gasp. So I laid her back down. I don't know if this is like when the body is finally shutting down, but I remember her gasping. And I remember jumping up. I like almost cracked a smile. I'm like, oh shit, it worked. And I remember grabbing her, picking her back up and I never talked about this before. I remember grabbing her though, and I thought like maybe the CPR had worked, but I picked her back up and I just realized in that moment that was it. And it was even rougher because like the fire department came in. Of course, they got to do their job, so they get the scissors and cutting the clothes and shit. And in my mind, I'm like, man, that's my baby. Be careful. But I'm like, they're here to do their job. And my dad came at that time too. He over in the corner holding his chest, and I'm like, what the fuck? He better not have a heart attack on me at the same time. It was crazy, man. It was a crazy, crazy, fucked up night. But yeah, she they ended up taking her, and then they told us later like that was it. She had passed, and they brought like the crime scene out and all that. They did like they interrogated us for like 7-8 hours. I had to take the girls to therapy like immediately the next day.
Oh, because they try to think maybe you had something to do with it, or?
Yeah, basically, mom didn't call 911 first. She called me, and they like that was a red flag for them. Like, why didn't you call 911? The baby may have been saved. Blah blah blah. So, yeah, that was a big deal. But they eventually closed it out, and that was it.
Hey, man, I'm sorry for your loss. I have a daughter, and I can't even comprehend that type of situation, man. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, I'm tearing up myself just hearing this story.
And then it was just real eerie, man, because my oldest daughter was the one that put her to sleep, Derrick. So she started feeling guilty, like maybe she laid her down and did something wrong. It was just it was and still is just like it's a great area for me because I don't talk to nobody about it. So bunch of unanswered questions and conversations for now.
All right, so you have 9 kids.
9 kids, 7 daughters, 2 sons.
Okay, what's the age range?
They range from 1 to 17.
1 to 17.
I've been having babies for a long time.
Well, you were planning on having 10 kids early on.
Absolutely.
Okay. When you were still in high school?
I was a little bitty boy when I first said I wanted 10 children. I planned my first one in 11th grade.
Was that when you had your first child?
Well, yeah, he ended up coming after 12th grade, but I reached out to his mom. We had the conversation, and she agreed in 11th grade.
Okay. How many different mothers?
There are 5 moms and 10 children. Well, 10 children, yeah. 5 moms, 10 children.
Okay. How hard is that to juggle? Because I remember, I'm friends with Boosie. And Boosie, he said one of his regrets is, in the Boosie fashion of saying these, he said he wished he had skeeted in one woman for all his kids. Like, he said that was his regret.
Yeah, I feel that, bro, only reason I look at that differently, I feel like that's unrealistic and unfair to put that responsibility on one woman to bear 10 children. I think that's where a lot of women slip up too, is they try to, men and women, but specifically women, they try to be everything for a man. And they often lose themselves. So like in my case, if a woman comes in now, you want me to be bonus mom to 9 children, manage multiple homes, manage multiple businesses, sleep with you on demand, cook, clean, not lose my own sanity, still look up to par, still keep myself in shape, still nurture my siblings, my mom, my dad, everything. I just feel like that's super unrealistic and unfair to tell a woman, like, the bulk of your existence is going to be bearing my children. So for me, I felt like it was necessary to find different moms. And like women that I'm not sexually, because I meet a lot of women sexually, but women that I find high value in, I do feel like, and I also like to identify my weaknesses. So I typically procreate with women that have things that I already don't have in terms of value. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But it does get...
Such as?
Okay.
What do they have that you don't have?
All right. So one example would be my most recent son, Supreme. He's 2 years old right now.
Great names, by the way. Like all these names that you're, I know you went for the whole Derrick and Derrick in the beginning. After that, I feel like you got real creative.
The moms took over. The moms started saying like, hey, look here, we're not finna have 100 Derricks. So let's step it up. And that's when you get your God, your melanin, knowledge, Empress, Supreme.
Although I've interviewed people like Gary Payton, who have 2 Garys.
Yeah,
from 2 different moms.
I would have did that if I could have got away with it. I would have did it. I would have killed
did it?
Yeah. We would have had Derrick the 5th already if it was up to me. Now all.
He has a Gary Payton the second and a Gary Payton Jr. And one of them was done outside of his marriage and So okay.
But yeah, bro, it does get hard. It's very challenging, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a roller coaster at times because that's a lot of personalities. So you got a lot of different variables and everybody going through their own different set of things. So to keep everybody in one space and in alignment is very challenging. It's a job in itself.
Have all 5 mothers been in the same room together?
Absolutely. Some of the moms have, just being honest, some of the moms have slept with one another, partied together, lived together, all type of stuff.
Wait. So some of your kids' mothers have gotten into romantic relationships with each other?
Yeah. No, Vlad, I tell everybody this. When my children sit down at whatever age they do and really open up the photo books and look at the origins, it's going to be so interesting that a lot of them not going to realize their mamas was friends 30 years ago. So like, I just give you an example. My last 2 children, I'm in a relationship with one. I hire another one to be an employee of mine. At this time, we're not intimate. The woman I'm with at that time, she tries to holler at the young lady, and the young lady not interested. But once me and mom break up, she becomes interested. So now what was basically if I'm woman A, I'm like, okay, so you were my man's employee, and then once me and him break up, now you're my son's sister's mom. And so there are some interesting stories that date back all the way like 15, 20 years, but a lot of them knew each other prior or got to know each other after we all were in the same space.
I mean, has there been any like fights between the moms? And
we've never had any physical stuff. We probably had maybe 3 arguments in all these years. They are
great.
Yeah, they are. We do have a pretty decent nucleus when it comes to mom on mom negative interactions. Now, I get the brunt of all that shit because I'm the median, and I get that. I'm the common denominator. But no, we had maybe 3 verbal arguments, but physical fights, hell, no, I don't play that.
Have you ever considered getting married to anybody?
I did. I considered it once.
Yeah.
But it's just not. I don't think marriage is for me, and it's not for the commitment aspect. But it's just more so. I feel like women get very possessive. And they already be possessive prior to marriage.
Oh yeah.
And I just get tired. Like I meet so many men in life, and they ladies always hitting them with the, well, I'm your wife. And I just feel like women take that shit and run it into the ground and weaponize it to make men conform and do what they feel like they want them to do.
Yeah, I don't know if marriage kind of even makes sense in the modern world.
I
think historically it kind of made sense, and maybe in certain countries,
right?
You go to like the Middle East, they're real big on that,
right?
But in America, with the way divorce laws actually work and so forth, I don't know.
Oh yeah, especially the legal aspect. Absolutely
legal aspect
not.
is insane.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Now you're currently with 2 women.
Yes.
In a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're planning on having kids with them?
Yeah, I plan to. I want to knock out my next 2 children.
Okay.
As soon
and they
as
both
later.
know about each other?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I realized over, like men feel like they need to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Men feel like if they have another woman, they have to lie to everybody.
Right.
But over the years, I've realized that if you just tell them what the reality is, most women are actually cool with it.
Yeah, because like
they respect you more for the honesty.
This is what I learned, and what I had to learn to better articulate to women is whether women want to accept it or not. Most women are already in poly relationships.
They just don't know it.
They have been, they've been getting cheated on since they were 17 years old. You've been sharing your first boyfriend down to your last 3 husbands. So I think too, when you give them that reality check and you say, hey, this is what it is and this is what I am, and especially when you're able to add tangible and intangible value, most women would be like, if the most I got to deal with is that you actively telling me you're going to sleep with Lisa tomorrow, come on, I'm signing up. Let's do it. Let's get it done. But I think a lot of women are just still in denial, and they still have like this fairy tale idea of, I'm going to find a man and I'm going to own him for the next 40 years. He's not going to look, talk, sex. He ain't going to do anything. He's just going to stick to my leg and he going to do what I say and we going to live happily ever after.
I think it also depends on the man, because I don't think my father ever cheated on my mother, just to be dead honest.
No, I agree too. I mean,
honestly, like, we've had conversations about it and so forth. And, you know, like, listen, my history is my history. It's very different than my dad's. But he didn't even really have any friends outside of my mother. And I think he was completely devoted to her and so forth. So there are men that are like this.
Yeah, it exists for sure.
It exists, but I also think that, you know, I think Chris Rock said that men are as faithful as their options.
Yep.
So
that
if
is
you
so
have
true,
a
Vlad.
successful man who really has a lot of women, and also you got to understand that, like, at a certain fame level, at a certain wealth level, the gender roles get a bit reversed.
Yes.
Women who already know who you are, who are already fans of what you do, you're not selling yourself on the first date.
Right.
They're trying to convince you that they're worth your time.
Absolutely.
As opposed to the other way around.
Right.
Because I've been on both sides of the coin.
Me too.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
Two things I want to say for that.
Go ahead.
Most women don't understand the only reason they're halfway maybe dealing with a committed man is because he's terrified of divorce court and going through hell to be a father to his children.
Yeah.
Because I tell women all the time, give him $1 million. You're going to see how many women he really want to have and how he really want to move. And then number two is, I think social media changed everything. Like, I remember watching this interview with 50 years ago, and he was like, a successful man gets the same amount of attention as a beautiful woman.
Yep, I remember that, yeah.
Yep, and I feel like the roles have reversed because of things like social media. Like, now a man that is revered as intelligent or has his shit together, he has the power to literally put out the bat signal via IG story, and he can have whatever he wants in abundance. And then two, I think a lot of women aren't really taking the time to hone in on the value they have. They lead with their looks. And because of Instagram, that shit ain't powerful no more. It's fat ass, whatever you want. You want petite, thick, BBL, no BBL, bald, long hair. There. It's all there in abundance.
One DM away.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's hard out here for the ladies, but for the ladies that just naturally lead with their looks, it's hard for them because this oversaturated. It's fine ass women everywhere.
Well, yeah, you also have this sort of mentality where it's like you have women that are like, listen, I need a man who's 6 foot, makes at least 200,000, is faithful, and has his own business. Doesn't have a 9-to-5. I want all that for him to bring all that to the table. And so, what do you bring to the table? Me.
Right.
It's like
I saw an interview the other day. Lady was like, shout out to Young Goldie. He asked the lady, like, what you bring? She was like, me. And he was like, but he brings him. And she was like, but I'm me. And he was like, but he's him. So you're telling me your physical presence outweighs his? But there are women who really feel that way. Like, well, I have a vagina, so me being here is 800 points. You being here is just 2. Yeah, nah.
Yeah. Well, you said there's 4 elements every family should focus on: guns, gold, land, and self-love.
Absolutely.
Now, the guns we've talked about before. Do you own a lot of gold?
Yeah, I do. I went through a company. So, like, that's why I mentioned when you was talking about the stocks, playing the bank for yourself. So there's a company called Borrow, Borro. And they invest in high-end assets, art, gold, vehicles, things of that nature. So something I did early on, as I saw this storm brewing that a lot of us are dealing with right now, is I leveraged my gold. So at that time, I had between 22 and 24 kilos. And I remember one of my partners put me on to this place. I called them. These people actually let you borrow against your gold value. Now, do they give you...
Same thing that I was talking about with the stock portfolio.
Yeah, same thing. Yep.
Really the exact same thing.
Yep. Now, do they give you top value of what your gold is worth? No, I'm not going to lie. They do, like, undercut you. Not terribly, because I wouldn't have did the deal.
Right. A kilo of gold right now is $106,000.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they I went through them, and that was one of the first things I did because I actually got to a place in my investing where I was asset heavy, and then I really don't want to use the term too many assets because I don't think you could ever really have too many, but I had got to a place where like I couldn't leverage none of them, so I reached out to this company, and then they basically let me start borrowing against the goal. But the difference between what you're doing, you do have to pay back. You got to pay those people every month on what you borrow, otherwise you'll lose it.
Yeah, I don't have to pay anything back.
Yeah.
So at one point, I had a certain amount of money from the money I used to buy my house, but I just stopped paying it back.
Right.
Nothing happens. It just accrues more interest.
Absolutely.
And it gets to the point until you have a certain threshold. So let's just say you have $1 million stock portfolio, you could borrow up to $500,000. Now, if you borrow $500,000 and you don't pay, and the interest increases, all they'll do is they'll start selling off pieces of your stock,
right? Okay.
To pay for the interest,
right?
But that's that's not that serious,
right?
It's not as serious as you have a loan and you don't pay it back, and suddenly you have massive interest payments, and you have they'll potentially take what it is that you own, and look, you can't. And sometimes you don't really know about assets. So, for example, gold is at an all-time high right now,
right? But
diamonds are at like a decade low right now because of synthetic diamonds are becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
So you own diamonds as well?
Yeah. Not very little. I've always been big on gold. That was something I learned early on from Killer Mike and Nip, just different having conversations
shout out to Mike.
with them.
I spoke to him yesterday.
Yeah, having different conversations with them. I was like heavy with my gold. So I predominantly went gold. I bought very little diamonds, which I'm glad in retrospect I did buy very little.
Yeah, like for example, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I did an interview with him, and he owns tons and tons of gold.
Right.
That's his thing. But the thing about investments that I want people to realize, because I think a lot of people are going to be watching us, figuring out what to do with their money.
Right.
Gold is cool for an asset, a place to park your money.
Yep.
But you can't compare gold to investing in a company like Amazon that is constantly making money every single day. Gold doesn't make any money.
Right.
When you buy some gold, you hope that when you sell it, there's someone willing to pay more for it than what you bought it for.
Yep.
But it doesn't actually generate anything. In fact, you even have to store it somewhere, and you have to pay for the storage and the security and everything else like that.
Yep.
I know like right now I'm going through some insurance stuff where I'm insuring some of my watches, and like I have to buy a safe, a TL15 or a TL30 safe, which means that for at least a safe like this, for at least 15 minutes, could withstand
the fire.
Not only a fire, but an attack by someone that knows how to break into safes.
Right.
These safes start at like $3,000 a piece and weigh like 700 pounds.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So it's like you have, and listen, I have a watch collection. I have a Richard Mille, I got a bunch of Rolexes, platinum ones, and so forth. It's cool that I have them.
Right.
It's nice when I wear them. I like, I do interviews with them. People are like, ooh, like I get into interesting conversations with people, but they're not really investments.
Right.
They're just places to park my money because it's a little more fun to park your money in a watch than to put it into a bank account.
Agreed.
But it's not exactly the best investment. Right.
And I ended up learning that the hard way. That's why I say I ended up having to go to that company because I tried to leverage some of the gold at one point, and people trying to give me 30 grand for a 41 millimeter. I'm like, man, I spent 70,000. Like, this shit worth XYZ. And they're like, oh, well, we don't give a damn. We can't help you with that. So, no, you're right. That's why I ended up going with that company, Boro, and they gave me a better deal.
Right. Well, you said the whole world is ran by around 13 families.
Yep.
Which families?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even remember all of them by heart. I just know the one that I took the most liking into and I did the most research on was the Saudis. Their money is just like, yeah, they just fuck off Bugattis over there. They just live a different lifestyle. And I can't remember his name for nothing. I just know he's part of that family. But what really stood out to me is one dude, he got I think 39 kids. And I remember looking at him, I was like, oh, this the one I like. Yeah, he had a gang of children, but they were just talking about his billions. And I'm looking at their homes, but I vividly remember watching the documentaries on how J.P. Morgan got started and how these people was putting in work 200-300 years ago to make the Rothschilds, making sure their families the Waltons still control shit to this day. So I don't even remember the exact name of the documentary. I watched it on YouTube, but I direct people there all the time. Watch that documentary to really see who really running shit out here and how the money works.
No, look, once you're dealing with multi-generational wealth, where the family funds become the banks.
Right.
And I think the Rockefellers were big on this, where whenever someone needs a loan, they don't go to the banks. They just go to the Rockefeller fund. They pull out the money and then they pay it back into the fund with a certain level of interest. And that in turn just builds the fund up year after year, as opposed to giving money to the bank and they're just fleecing you for interest.
Exactly.
When I bought a house, I did something called a shareholder loan, which allowed my company to lend money to me as the shareholder at an interest rate that was the lowest possible interest rate you could possibly get at the time.
I learned something new today. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and the payoff is whenever I really feel like it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So it's once you actually have cash, once you have stocks, once you have land, once you have gold and other assets, you no longer need the banks to actually make, because there's going to be a point in your life where you're going to need money. Right. At some point, you're going to go to war. Right? Whatever that means.
Agreed.
And you're going to need a war chest.
Look, I was just watching you and TK the other day agree, shaking my head the whole time. Like, I agree 1,000%.
You have to go to war at some point. It'll be unexpected.
Yeah.
And if you can't outspend your enemy, you're going to have a world of problems.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's what I ran into in 2024. I'm broke on paper, but I'm rich in assets. And then I ran into that where like, okay, we got millions of dollars in this, but we don't have the millions of dollars physically. And I learned that lesson in 2024. Like next go round, when I get more lump sums and I'm able to spend $1 million again in a day, I'm not going to just tie it up. Like you said, parking it in gold. That investment is cool, and I enjoyed it because I'm actually able to wear that investment at times when I feel like it. So it did serve a dual purpose. It was cool. But moving forward, I agree with you 100% on putting in things that's going to actually generate some more bread and not just level it out or keep it stagnant.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I came up middle class. My parents were lower middle class. I'm a first generation immigrant. Like I understand that at a certain financial level, you're being told a lot of things and you tend to believe them. Yeah. And your parents did it a certain type of way and they did okay. So you're taught to kind of follow in your parents' footsteps. But my parents were not millionaires. They were not multimillionaires. They did okay. I never had to support them. My dad passed away. My mom is fine. Gotcha. She owns her own house. But they are nowhere near my wealth level. Right. So what I do, I can't look at them and say how they did it. Right. Because it's a totally different thing. Handling $10,000 and handling $1 million is not the same skill set. Agreed. And if you approach it in the same way, you're going to end up losing $1 million. Right. Losing 10,000 is a loss that most people could take. Losing $1 million is very painful. Absolutely. Especially if it's the only million that you have. Right. And what I find is that most people, and I'm not just talking about regular working people, like I've had talks with celebrities that I've interviewed that are multimillionaires off camera, and it's like, I made $3 million this year, but then last year I was broke, and I just got to get this bag again, and I got to flip it real quick, and it's like, you've been in the music business for like 20 years. You should not be broke for a year and trying to flip money. Like it's kind of crazy hearing this, but a lot of people, they want to do the quick flip. They want it, and this is why, look, shout out to everyone. My man, Willie D, great friend of mine. He's done really well with crypto. But I know a lot of people that lost their shirt. Right. You know what I'm saying? And for me, people have always asked me, well, how come you don't invest in crypto? And this simply, I don't know it well enough to invest.
Same here.
Right? Yeah. I don't want to get into a FOMO kind of situation where like everyone else is making money, so I got to make money. Right. And the thing with crypto also is that I think, what's his name? The founder of Twitter, Jack
Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey. He said something interesting. He said that the way, for example, Bitcoin will ultimately fail if all it is a place to store money. Until you have a real application for crypto that makes more sense than using dollars, it's still going to be speculative.
Absolutely.
Now, I understand that now it's like the fourth biggest or fifth biggest asset in the world. Because a lot of people, I think they feel like, well, it's going to be worth so much more in the future, so let me get on now before it's too late. But what exactly does it do that fixes a problem that regular money can't fix?
Agreed. I agree.
And I'm not quite sure yet, which is why I've kept my money out of crypto.
Right, I have too. I had a lot of people tell me, not knocking it either, shout out, because I do know some people who won with it. So not, not taking nothing away from their story, but I have a gang of people that attempted to explain it, but I don't know what it is. If I'm having a slow moment to this day, I just still cannot wrap my mind around crypto and how it is just absolutely going to be the best thing ever in the next 10 years and change humanity.
I mean, there are some advantages, like the stock market is only open during certain days, certain hours. Crypto could be exchanged at any point. I think like XRP fixed a problem where a lot of people would send money to their relatives overseas using Western Union.
Yep.
And that required a whole bunch of fees, and you got to fill out paperwork, and it's really cumbersome, and stuff gets messed up. You got to go to a location, and you could transfer XRP really quickly.
Gotcha.
But like these countries, like I forgot, was it Colombia that made Bitcoin their national currency, is a bit insane.
Oh, yes, a couple of them that did that. I saw that.
It's a bit crazy because the fluctuation. Right. I mean, imagine if the dollar was worth 50% less one day. Right. Like, imagine the chaos that would occur. Absolutely. Not only in America, but all over the world if the dollar suddenly fluctuated like Bitcoin. Not even 50%. Imagine a 5%, 10% loss a big deal in the dollar.
Yeah. That changes life for a lot of people, for sure. Yeah.
How do you feel about the whole tariff situation?
Well, first and foremost, I am in full support of Trump. I'm glad he's the president, but because I've been having a lot of people that DM me too. I guess it's their aha moment, like, oh, you talked all that shit about Trump this and Trump that, and because the tariffs are affecting me. My robotics company, like I was showing you earlier, we're supposed to be reintroducing a new upgraded version this year. I'm releasing bug out bags through my gun store and the security company, Grace Private Security, and those I've been at a stalemate with China on those too because of the tariffs.
What's a bug out bag?
So it's basically like an end of the world bag. Comes with water filter, tents, knives, tool kits, first aid. But basically, if a natural disaster hit, like, for instance, Cali had the fires, down in Florida, we get hurricanes all year long, almost. But essentially a bag for them to live out of should they lose their home or they gotta, really go outside and survive on their own. But yeah, I'm confident that it's gonna pass and things are gonna balance out and it'll make sense again at some point. I actually feel like a lot of this stuff is just cinema, lights, camera, action. They playing certain games to make the market fluctuate, make the people be in an uproar. But I do feel like it'll balance out at some point. I'll get back to business, but I do feel like overall, a lot of people, especially culturally, could combat tariffs in the sense of like community co-ops. But again, just like you said, like people want their own, or people have trust issues. But just going back to the collective thing, a lot of people would rather struggle with tariffs individually than say, hey, how can we just put our paper together and figure out how to buy the machinery and start producing in home? Or how can we pull up on a distributor that's in Pakistan, put our bread together, and we still gonna balance out better than paying these high prices because of the tariffs. But I do feel like that too will pass, and everybody who been DMing me trying to make me feel bad, they can go to hell when everything get back to normal. Because I have somebody at least once a week that just talk shit to me and be like, yeah, you want to vote for that orange motherfucker and look at you now. And I'm like, okay, I'll take my lick. It'll get back to normal. We still in business.
Yeah, man, look, I voted for Kamala. I voted California where it kind of didn't matter. Right.
I got you.
California's always Democrat anyways. But if you voted for Trump, I respect that as well. And
I think I actually didn't vote. I'm in support of him. Like I feel like I understand him on a different level than like the average person that I've had conversation with. I can't speak for everybody because I don't talk to everybody, but I know within my family and culturally, a lot of the conversations I have with people, I just think they don't really understand the situation on the level that I feel like I understand it.
Look, if I had an extra $1 million lying around right now, I'd be plowing it into the stock market. Right. But unfortunately, my money's tied up in other shit right now. But if I had $1 million right now, I would put like 80% of it in the stock market. Right. because it's times like this where the fortunes are made.
Right.
And if you look at the stock market over the last 150 years, if you put your money in at any point, at the biggest highs, the lowest lows, anything in the middle, and you kept it in there for at least a few years, you were guaranteed to make money.
Right.
All you had to do was just keep it there. But people don't look at that, and they also don't understand, like, well, when my company, if my stock, grows, how do I benefit?
Right.
You benefit because you now have an asset that's way more valuable.
Absolutely.
Well, do I get to spend it? Well, I mean, you could, but you shouldn't.
Right.
People like to sell off half of it and take their profits. And I'm like, well, now you own a lower stake in something that's successful.
Right.
That's like, for example, let's just say that you buy 10% of the Lakers. The Lakers win a championship, and they have this young squad that's about to dominate over the next 4 years.
Right.
Are you going to sell half your shares in the Lakers
on
that first year?
Right.
Because now it's worth 20% more? Or do you keep your money in there because 5 years from now it'll be worth 10 times more?
Absolutely.
But people don't understand that. But I don't think people have a lot of times the maturity to plan out multi-years in advance.
Right.
And I'm going to leave it with this. Like the biggest thing that I have with people and the way they approach business and life in general is this. You start school in kindergarten. It takes you 12 years or 13 years to graduate from high school. You have a 13-year plan.
Right.
If you go to college, that's another 4 years.
Yep.
That's 18 years. 17 years, right? That you put into a plan that at the end of that plan, you feel you'll benefit from it because you have certain things. You have a degree under your belt, whether it's a college degree, high school diploma, the skills you learn and so forth. People don't see anything weird by doing that. A 4-year college plan doesn't seem weird to most people. But yet they start a business and they want a result after 6 months or a year.
Agree. I run into them type of people every day. I mean, I tell people, I think one of the greatest things my dad ever taught me was delayed gratification.
Yes.
And I feel like the human race would be 100 times better if they actually knew what that was and actually attempted to practice it. But yeah, I feel like that instant gratification is either killing us or we quitting prematurely because, I did it for 30 days. I didn't get the result I want, so I'm out of here. Which I get it. Like I did a similar thing with the market when I lost my money. But I meet people like in my community and my mentees, I meet people every day that'll be like, well, I did what you told me to do last week. I'm like, all right, do this shit 6 more months. Like, how bad you really want it?
Right.
But they'll do that shit for 3 days, and then it's, well, yeah, I made $700 the first day, $402. Fuck it, I'm gonna just come up with a new idea and quit. I'm like, all right, bro, you're gonna be running that same marathon your whole life. You're never gonna get the plan, the step B, C, or D, because you're just gonna keep repeating A to the end of your days.
Well, yeah, and hold on, I'm gonna look up the actual stat. The average age of a millionaire in the United States, how old do you think that is?
Isn't it 42?
61.
61?
The average age of a millionaire.
Sheesh.
I became a millionaire in my early 40s, right?
Bro, I can tell you something real quick. I watched that conversation, and you really helped me to get a better grip on I still apply pressure to myself, but you really helped me to understand and be more patient with myself.
Yeah.
Cause you was breaking that shit down there, and I was like, man, I'm 35. I need to fucking relax and stop beating myself up cause I ain't got 50 million or 100 million yet. Like, man, you still got 30 years of life to figure this shit out.
Man, you are so much richer than I was at 35. That's not even funny.
Yeah.
Like you're probably 100 times richer at 35. At 35, I was still relatively broke. Like I started Vlad TV. Let me do the math. Yeah, I started Vlad TV around 35.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I wasn't making anything.
Right.
So, and it wasn't until I was maybe around 40 that the real money started to come in. So when you go on Instagram and you see this 20-year-old with a Rolls Royce, it's either not the Rolls Royce or this person has some freakish ability
right.
that you probably don't have.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so many Chris Browns out there. There's only
Kai
so many.
Cenat. It's only so many.
There's only so many Kai Cenats. There's only so many LeBron Jameses or Kyrie Irvings or, whoever else. Like, some people are just born with freakish abilities.
Yep.
But that's one in a million, one in a billion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't count on that. And you can't feel bad seeing this young person who has all this stuff. And I know that there is everyone wants nice things. Everyone likes nice cars. Everyone likes designer clothes. Everyone likes jewelry. Everyone likes to travel first class. Like I get it. People like to fly private. I never fly private. It's too fucking expensive, right?
I learned my lesson with that.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, you can go broke flying private.
Bro, you definitely can.
You definitely go
and then
broke flying private.
When you got a broker who will front you the jet and they come get the payment later,
yeah,
I
don't even play around with that. I'm happy flying first class.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm not in the back anymore. I'm cool. But and a lot of times you'll do illegal things to try to get those things early, and that becomes a trap.
Yep.
Because I don't know how many people I've interviewed that have done substantial prison time, and I've seen that over time it's about a 1-to-5 ratio. You could ball out illegally for a few years, but for every year that you're making illegal money, you'll probably do 5 years of prison.
You're going to give back 2 to 5 of those.
You'll give back 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you do the math, think about it.
Yeah.
You'll get 1 year to make $100,000 off selling drugs, and then you'll be in jail for 5 years where you're making nothing.
Right.
So over 6 years, you've only made $100,000. 100 divided by 6 is like less than minimum wage.
Right.
Right.
And I break that down all the time on my IG videos. I'll be saying I wish the culture can have a calculator that showed them the crime versus the time. Because if they really thought this out, a lot of them can go donate blood for the type of money. Like, you finna get 10 years for a $20,000 play? Man, you could have donated blood for it. You could have sold bottles of water and made more money than that over the course of 10 years. But I tell people, like, it's a huge difference between thinkers and reactors. A lot of people going to think it through. A lot of people just going to react off impulse. And then you end up paying for that shit for the next 2 decades.
Well, Derrick, man, I appreciate you coming in. And it's so cool that, like, you and I, although, like, our backgrounds are so different when it comes to money, even though we have different ages, different backgrounds, different family structures and so forth, we're pretty much on the same page.
Agree. No, man,
financially.
I follow a lot of the conversations, especially when y'all talking about renting versus owning, the money. I'm on a lot of those interviews multiple times, watching it over and over again. I'm in agreement with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, well, this is why I bring in people like you, because I want my audience to see people that look like them.
Yeah.
That are reiterating things that I truly believe in. Like I really have made people around me millions of dollars just off of telling them what I do. I never took a piece of what they did. I never say, hey, and how you said, like, the guy's like, oh, invest in me and I'll invest your money. I've never invested anybody's money. I don't even have the ability to do that. I legally can't do that.
Exactly.
And I'm actually, because right now we launched the Vlad TV YouTube Masterclass, where for $100 a month, I actually have multiple lessons about how we built up Vlad TV.
Yeah.
And we have people like Gilbert Arenas who break down how they make millions of dollars off their YouTube channel, and we go live, and I answer people's questions. But for a long time, I wanted to do a Vlad Stocks tier where I start breaking down stock investing for people as well, probably like a $50 price point, because I feel like, especially now, things look crazy, but this is actually a great time.
Great time, yeah, for sure.
To actually invest. And financial literacy, man, like it'll change everything.
It will. I agree.
Because once you figure out that your money could make money, the money's no longer burning a hole in your pocket.
Right.
You're less likely to just try to find a place to spend your money on, whether it's clothes, cars, women, trips, whatever else. Because you're like, for every dollar I spend over here, I can't invest that money.
Right.
And that dollar can't turn into $1.50.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, man, I'm glad we finally got to connect.
Likewise, man. Like I said, I've been wanting to get here for a decade, man. Early on, I was like, I got to get on Vlad, and I appreciate you big time, man. Like, you made a lot of people around me day. When I told him, I've been getting text messages for the last week, like, I'm so happy for you, man. I can't wait to see you, blah, blah, blah. So it was a big deal, bro. I appreciate it.
And, I mean, behind the scenes, like, when I told you about it, you were like, cool, where is it? When? I'm there. I don't need a flight. I don't need an appearance fee. I cannot tell you
how many times the young lady sitting to my left, we've had this conversation, bro. I take my road trips, so I always cut the interviews on. I'm just like, listen, I gotta get to Vlad. Bro, the day you hit me, if you had said be here tomorrow, we was gonna figure that shit out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man. Derrick Grace II. Man, congrats on your success, man. Until next time.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.